It's weird. My Twitch, my YouTube's posted on Discord, but my Twitch stream's not linked for some reason. I need to just give me a sec. Okay, it's sorted itself now, I think, anyway. Yeah, so we'll start with, we'll basically go through each boss individually. So what I've done is I've basically just used basically we did a re-clear last week, and I thought rather than, like, cherry picking best kills and stuff like that, it made sense just to play all of the fights, I suppose, from that one raid night. So they're not, like, some of them are better than others, some of them have mistakes in them, and I think that's fine, because in, like, a general... I think mistakes are good to show as well, because if you make a mistake, it's good to show you what happens if you make this mistake and how it can actually negatively impact, rather than just, like, cherry picking one of the best POVs, right? So, like, Loom'ithar has some examples of that. I think there's some other bosses as well that have some examples of that. So it's just more like where there's a mistake, it's easy for me to say, okay, I messed up here, here's what you do instead. Because otherwise I could just show you, like, the best version of that kill. Which was always an option, right? It's usually what I did with all my Undermine ones, like, obviously the best version, because obviously you probably want to see the fight in how it can be played, in quotation marks, as good as possible. None of these are bad POVs, right? I don't die on any of them except for Dimensius, so they're all, like, proper kill POVs where I play out the entire fight. And I only die on Dimensius at the end, so does it really count? A little bit, yeah. Alright. Yeah, okay, so we'll start with... What's his name? Where's my... What am I looking for right now? We'll start with this tab. So we're going to start with Plexus. So this is just the Plexus, I suppose, Warcraft logs. So basically, I'm using Warcraft logs to just kind of show talents and builds, rather than actually going into the game itself and showing you what I ran there. This makes the most sense to do it. And then we'll essentially run through each boss. I have some tabs here as well to show you, like, strats for certain bosses. Not every single boss is going to have, like, a strat raid plan, because it doesn't really make sense to show you that. But some of them do. Some of them that I think are actually worthwhile sharing kind of do. So, Plexus Sentinel. I have so many tabs open. Plexus Sentinel. So I went Conduit of the Celestials, right? Now, I've been kind of like a die-hard Conduit of the Celestials player on Plexus Sentinel since the start of the tier. I think for how the fight initially began, right, it was a very long fight. You had all 3 intermissions, and then you still play the final phase, and this allowed you to get a lot of basically conduit burst windows out. Essentially, you got your 1 minute 30 cooldowns, and I think 1 minute 30 actually played better for this fight, for, like, the majority of prog, the majority of re-clears, up until potentially last week, which is the video I'm going to show you where I played it, and I started having doubts on if conduit was actually still going to be, like, what I thought I want to play on this boss going forward. I'll go over that a bit more when we run through it, when we get to, like, actual, like, I suppose, kill timers, cooldown timers, stuff like that. But it's pretty standard, like, talent-wise and stuff like that. It's really standard stuff. It's just basically the Conduit Celestials, single target, 1 minute 30 build. Nothing too crazy or outlandish here. As we get further into the, like, bosses and stuff, you'll start seeing talent builds that are a little bit weird. Not quite conventional to how you'd think you'd play them in the raid. But for Plexus Sentinel, it's a pretty standard boss, right? First boss in the raid. And the kill time on this thing was 5 minutes 10 seconds. So previously, I think you kind of downed this at around 6 minute 30, which meant that you essentially got a big cooldown window just before you downed it. The issue with 5 minutes 10 that you'll see is that it's a little bit longer off of the final cooldown window. And the issue with that is that Conduit essentially benefits the most from getting a boss down as soon as possible after like your final cooldown window. Fractillus is a great example of this. When you're doing like Fractillus and you take Fractillus down, if you can get a conduit just before you take him down, perfect. Your damage is going to be like top tier. But the further past that point in between before your next cooldown period, it's actually really awkward, and you drop down. This happened a lot in season 2, I suppose. This was quite familiar as well. If anyone played Conduit, then you do your burst window, you shoot back up to the top of the like meters and stuff, and then between burst windows, you just drop steadily down because that's where all the damage majoritively comes from, right? So if you do play Conduit on Plexus Sentinel, I would advise running Lily of the Eternal Weave. Really, you have about, like, I suppose 2 trinket options here. One's Lily and one's Nether Prism, really, if you're going 1 minute 30. The reason I don't recommend Nether Prism for this fight is, once again, it just comes down to the time. 5 minutes 10. So it's not a very long fight. And the issue with shorter fights, like 5-minute fights, is that the Nether Prism, you don't get any value from it on the first pull. And it's even worse when you're lusting on pull. So essentially, you're just doing you're raw dogging Conduit's opener, basically, during a lust with no trinket to buff it. And one of like Conduit's strengths is having a trinket to actually buff it. In a longer fight, like let's say 7 minutes-ish, Nether Prism gains more value because as the fight progresses, you're getting a lot more. I suppose you're getting enough windows of damage where you have this extra agility buff that it supersedes the fact that you didn't have one on pull. But in the shorter fights, when you have less cooldowns actually being sent out, not having that initial one is quite significant and does have an impact on the damage. So that's why I recommend Lily here, so that you literally, so that you get that first like burst window of lust and everything amped up with a huge amount of mastery, so it just hits really hard. Other than that, there's not much really to go on to gear here. I suppose you can talk about Astral Antenna, trinket-wise. I mean, it's the best in slot trinket. You'll see me run this on literally every single boss except for Dimensius. I run Astral Antenna. If you have one, you're pretty much going to run it with Shadowpan or with Conduit. It's just a really good trinket. Alternatives, I suppose, a Pacemaker. Maybe some other trinkets for single target fights. Maybe like Ticking Sack of Terror would probably be good here as well. Sigil of the Cosmic Hunt, Screams of the Forgotten are also pretty good because it's like pretty much a single target fight. There are ads on this fight, but for the most part, they just get one shot. So yeah, I think that's kind of just going over build and stuff. It's pretty cookie cutter. There's nothing crazy out of the way here, and I just think if you are running Conduit, it's a Lily fight. Okay, let's actually watch the kill then. So Plexus Sentinel is a pretty chill fight, right? As I said earlier, the fight's not as long as it used to be. The fight used to have like 3 full intermissions, and then you'd have a final phase where you'd take him down. But the difference now is that because of the buffs that we've got and the gear that characters have now, you actually skip this final intermission. You might not skip it every time, especially if you're progging. But from my guild's POV, right, we have enough gear now, enough damage, we know the fight well enough that we just entirely skip the last intermission, and it's not even close. So it's worth mentioning that with the mechanic where you have to go stand on one side of the platform, always just go to the left. You'll see that throughout this POV, that we always just go to the left-hand side of the map. You can see the players doing it now, right? They all go to the left-hand side, they drop their thing there, never go to the right. It's easier just to do it on the left, you stay near the boss and let the tanks deal with their own thing. In terms of cooldowns all get sent on pull because you're lusting, and then you send out a Storm, Earth, and Fire as well. This is because you want to benefit from the lust with the second Storm, Earth, and Fire. You're only going to get 1 second Storm, Earth, and Fire this fight, so it might as well be them. And then these ads. So I thought we were going to pull these ads where I'm stood right now. This was like usually where they got pulled. I didn't realize till I was like halfway running across that they got pulled to the front. And at that point, because I'm a melee, I can't fucking do anything about this, right? So I was just like, right, I'll run to the boss. Because I swear for like the entirety of every time we pulled this before, it got pulled in between the two things. So lost a bit of damage there. But because the ads die so quickly now, the rangers had it covered. And then in terms of second cooldowns, they just kind of line up really nicely at this shield phase when not a lot is going on. So essentially, yeah, 1 minute 30, you send your cooldowns again, and you just go ham. So this is where Conduit and Shadowpan differ a little bit, I suppose, in the fact that if you're playing Shadowpan on this fight, you will play it 2 minutes. You can't really play it 1 minute 30 because I think the only realistic trinket you can run for this with Shadowpan is Araz Ritual Forge. It's one of the other reasons I didn't run Shadowpan on this fight, because I just didn't have one at the time. But I actually think Shadowpan's probably going to end up better this fight, if not already better, if you have the right trinket setup. Like, you cannot underestimate trinkets. It sounds like kind of like a small thing, like just this one little trinket. But it's so substantial because of how short the fight is. Like, you'll get both of your 2-minute windows out, fully buffed by Araz, absolutely nuking into this boss. But yeah, so I played Conduit for the most part. In fact, I'm pretty sure on this kill, because I think I watched it back for playing it here. I don't think I got a single mechanic, I'll be honest. So, there's not much where I can really show you, like, mechanics and stuff, other than, like, telling you, yeah, you go to the left. You always want to stand in front, inside of this thing, this player got. If you get it, you stand still. It's just to help negate the damage here. You can see a lot of, like, notifications and stuff, the defensives and stuff like that popping up on my screen. The issue I don't pop a lot anymore is because the damage is a lot less than it used to be. But initially, like, on prog, you had to pop defensives almost for every mechanic. Like, recommended it was to pop a defensive for the tank thing that just went off there. The difference now, right, is that with the tank thing over there, is that it did no damage, right? It did literally none of my health, so there's no point popping a defensive. So it's quite tricky. I think the best times for defensives are actually now during the intermission. I think this has changed a little bit. So although you might see like tons of notifications popping up saying, "Oh, pop Karma here, pop Fortifying Brew here," the only time that like I'm really scared during this fight now is during the intermissions when you've got quite a bit of ticking damage. You might run into the odd laser because you know you're doing your rotation and you ain't gonna fucking dodge that thing. Why would you dodge it? I'm doing damage, you know. So I suppose that's like something to consider. If you want to play it like really safe, I'd pop a defensive for every single tank explosion. And it can also be worth popping a defensive for the player soaks, the ones that literally stand under the boss. They can be worth popping a defensive for. But nowadays, I'd probably just try and save at least one for each intermission. You should be able to get at least one for each intermission. Like Fortifying Brew would just be a good shout for what you choose to save because it lasts a long time. It covers the entire period. But really, like, it's not a heavy defensive fight anymore. Obviously, still you use your defensives, but and at the same time, it's kind of like, it just doesn't hit as hard as it used to. So I have paused the video here. There is method to the madness. So what I do here is I misplay. Right now is when I should send my cooldowns, and I kind of tweaked myself out a little bit because I always pop cooldowns at this point in time. But I look down at his energy bar, because his energy bar, when it's full, that's when he hits the intermission. And I thought to myself, this energy bar is further than it usually is, right? It's not, because it's a scripted fight. It doesn't increase his energy gain. But I thought to myself, shit, he's about to go into his thing. My cooldowns are too late. I shouldn't send them here. Big mistake. Because this essentially meant that I actually sent one less set of cooldowns out for the entire fight, which is bad, obviously. Don't do this. So my best recommendation would be, if you are playing Conduit, even if the energy bar looks like this and your cooldowns are up at like 305, you have to send here. Because even if your fight is faster and you get a 5-10 kill time, you're still going to pop at about 435-ish, which is before you down the boss. So essentially, I lost an entire set of cooldowns because I just tweaked myself out. See, look how many seconds there are during this before he casts the intermission. It started at 305 when I got my cooldowns back, and it finishes at around 315-ish. I mean, it's still going, right? So 316 is when it finishes. In that 10-second window, you can easily send out a Zuin, you can send out a Storm and Fire, you know, Strike of the Windlord, Slicing Wind, Celestial Conduit. You can get this all on the boss before he even knocks you back. So this was a misplay, right? I made mistakes. It happens. It is what it is. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you are playing Conduit, you have to kind of send it here. Otherwise, you'll do what I did, which is delay an entire set of cooldowns and basically get one massive burst window failed or not sent out on this fight, which essentially kind of means why are you playing Conduit then? Because you send about as many cooldowns as you would have if you were playing Shadowpan. You might as well just play Shadowpan. So pretty important to send out your cooldowns there before the knockback. You won't get the full value of them. You lose about you do lose about 10 seconds of them, but you've got your main things out right. You've got the majority of your Zuin out. You've got a full Conduit out. You've got your big Storm and Fire, Strike of the Windlord, Slicing Winds combo out. You've hit this thing like a truck, and now you go into the intermission. So we get knocked back here, and I realize my mistake, but it's too late. So now I go into position for the ads. So this is what I meant. This is where I thought the ads were going to get gripped to initially. So then you jump onto those guys, get them down, but you see how fast they die, right? Like, you aren't really getting much into them. So here, I actually use Spatial Rift. I could have just used the extra action button and gone through the thing normally, but I realized, if we go back, there was a laser in front of me. Now, you're not going to have Spatial Rift, right? Not all monks have Spatial Rift. I play a Void Elf. but it was better than taking the damage. I probably would have survived it, but trust me when I say I've had so many deaths on this boss to stupid things that I just try to play it as safe as possible. As well as that, I knew that there was no third intermission. If there was a third intermission, I would have 100% saved Spatial Rift for that one, because it's the worst one. It's a horrible maze. You want to get through it as fast as possible. You can use, like, Warlock Gate Tech and stuff, but if you have Spatial Rift, that is the best intermission to use it if your fight lasts that long. As well as that, you can technically Transcendent over the wall. The way you do this is if the wall's coming in, let's say you had to use or let's say you fat fingered your extraction bar, right? Your extraction button where you dash through stuff. It's not over. You can still survive it. If you place a Transcendence, let it go with the Transcendence, then port over, you can survive it, and you will have this up for every single set. So it's not a, oh, GG, I'm dead sort of angle. As long as you think fast and place your Transcendence, you can survive everything. So even if you mess up here, you can still survive it. So we're now in the second intermission. So as I said, I shouldn't have cooldowns here, but I do. So I send them out here. And this is what I mean when I say that this is like genuinely the last set of cooldowns that I get to send out. We're coming up to 4 minutes now. At 4:30 is when I should be sending out my last set of cooldowns. So I've lost one. So a little bit of mistake on my end. You lose a bit of damage there. Not the best pull. It could be worth talking about why I think Shadowpan's probably better for this fight now. And it kind of comes down to the boss timings. As the boss is getting shorter and shorter in the amount of time you kill it, I think Shadowpan gains quite a lot of value. Especially with like an Araz Ritual Forge, right? Because the issue with Nether Prism is on pull with Shadowpan, you won't do any damage. With an Araz, you actually do ungodly damage. It is like really strong. And then having a Araz up for every 2 minutes. The reason 2 minutes are also good for this is it lines up with like periods in the fight where you don't have an intermission and everything is kind of chill, right? So you can see, right, if we jump back a little bit, I'll skip through this and then go back. 4 minutes. 4 minutes is when you get your second set of cooldowns, right? What's going on here? Nothing. The intermission just finished, right? Perfect time to send out your Shadowpan cooldowns. Nothing's happening. No walls are coming. You're basically chilling. If we jump back a little bit further to 2 minutes exactly here, right? You can see once again, nothing is happening, right? Boss is on no energy, no intermission coming at all. 2 minutes perfect. I think there's potentially a wall coming, but by the time the wall comes, you've essentially sent all your cooldowns, right? So this is why I do think that Shadowpan is probably better for this fight overall. Because Conduit, you can see what I meant. Like you have a very short window to actually get all your damage out. The one that I missed, basically. But also, you don't get the full duration of it. You will miss about 10 seconds of that damage window. So you have lost half of your cooldowns, even if you play it like really well. Whereas with Shadowpan, by sending it 0 to 4, you lose no cooldowns. You get full damage value from them, and it kind of slaps and slaps as well in single target. As well as that, because I'm going to play it next when I do thingy again. The other benefit to running Shadowpan is that Crackling Jade Lightning, right? You can essentially get 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning on both ads every time, as long as you have like a DK or something that grips them, or any way of moving them. Because if you save a 20 stacker or build a 20 stacker up just for the start of the intermission, the ads get pulled together, you instantly Crackling Jade Lightning them. You've just got 2 target Crackling Jade Lightning in a single target fight, right? Huge value. The thing is, you'd have to send it instantly. These ads get absolutely blown up. But it also means that you're not like forced to run on top of them before you get to them to Crackling Jade Lightning. You can target them from behind a wall, behind one of those bubbles, whatever, and still actually hit them before maybe your range nuke them down or something like that. So in the future, I'm going to play Shadowpan on this fight. Realistically, I just think it's better. We can probably, let's skip around to 4 minutes. Probably finish the boss fight now. Oh, go on, faster. Yeah, so 4:18. So this is what I mean, right? Now at this point, you would get another intermission, but it doesn't come up till about 5:30ish or something like that. And at this point, you can see the boss is pretty much new. Next week, you're going to get another buff for your character, like another 3%er. More gear. Damage is just going to get crazy. So I don't think this fight will ever get to the extent where you just have one intermission. I think that was maybe a bit too fast. But it's getting further and further away from having 3 intermissions, which is why I think Shadowpan's going to get better as well. As well as that, the closer you get your kill to about 4 minutes, the better Shadowpan's going to be, right? Because you just finished the kill after a 4-minute burst window. So, overall, yeah, I think this is definitely heading towards Shadowpan, if not already a Shadowpan fight. I don't think Conduit's bad by any means. Like, if you can get that extra timing off, it's good. And if the fight comes to around 4 minutes, like, 50, it's also good. Because then you've got your final set of cooldowns out. But the biggest issue... Like, the biggest issue is once it's before the 4-minute 30 point, that's, like, Conduit's weakest, right? because that's when you start sending out your cooldowns. And then not until the fight regresses all the way to 3 minutes in time, or like 3 minutes 20 after you sent your second set of cooldowns out, does the value of Conduit actually get back up, if that kind of makes sense. So, like, kill time's important, and I definitely think it's leaning more to Shadowpan. If you do get that third intermission, though, I do think that Conduit is pretty good for it. It depends how soon after 4 minutes 30, I suppose, you down it, or if you can get to 6 minutes or whatnot. It really depends on kill time. I suppose right now both builds viable. I think both are viable. But yeah, as I said, definitely Shadowpan angled, and I think it will head that way going further down the line. Okay, one boss down. Yapped for about 20 minutes on Plexus Sentinel. Dimensius is going to last an hour. I guarantee it. Holy moly. So yeah, let me find this, let's find the next fight, shall we? I think we're going to go Soulbinder next, which, in quotation marks, is the best Windwalker fight in the raid. I equate it very similar to Rick Reverb, right? If you played Rick Reverb and you played Windwalker then, that was when we played Conduit with Crackling Jade Lightning with Slicing Winds as well, and when the ad set spawned, you did absolutely insane burst damage. This is that. Except that the table's flipped, and you can... I'm telling you right now, don't play Conduit on this fight. Like, just don't play Conduit on Soulbinders. It's not worth it. It is a Shadowpan fight through and through. You will never, ever do as well on Conduit as you'll do on Shadowpan for this fight. Unlike Plexus Sentinel, where you can probably do just as well, if not better, on Conduit, sometimes Shadowpan, sometimes Conduit, depending on timings and stuff like that. Shadowpan will always beat Conduit here, just because of how the fight works. The fight is an ad spawning fight, and the cooldowns line up perfectly with Shadowpan. 2 minutes is the big cooldown moment, and that's also when all the ads spawn. Lines up perfectly, amazing. And then the next big ad spawn is about 420, which is just a 20-second hold on cooldowns, but then again, insane burst. You nuke everything down. Conduit, playing 1 minute 30, it misses that 2-minute burst, right? Like, you've missed the ad set. And then, I suppose you could hold, but you're holding for 30 seconds at that point. And then if you hold for 30 seconds, you then pop again at 3:30, and then you're holding for another minute, right? Basically, you just cannot really get away with playing Conduit here. As well as that, the fact that you get shorter Stormwrath and Fires on Shadowpan here also make it a better fight. Like, it's just such a good Shadowpan fight. Absolutely amazing fight for Shadowpan. You have to play it here. Trust me, bro. Okay, let's have a look at... So, this is Plexus Sentinel. Let's have a look at Soulbinder. So, Shadowpan, you kind of go like a semi-AoE build here. First off the bat, you can see straight away, I'm not running Zuin's Bond because I'm playing 2 minutes. I do run Zuin's Battle Gear, and that's because, for the most part, you are actually just hitting the boss, right? Like, there are ad spawns, but outside the 2 minute and the 4 minute 21, the ads die extremely quickly. You do have to try and take advantage of this, and you can, but outside of that, it is a single target fight, right? In quotation marks. I mean, it's not a single target fight, but outside of that, you do want to be like Rising Sun kicking to get more Fist of Fury on the boss. So it is worthwhile to take Zuin's Battle Gear. But in terms of like AoE stuff, taking things like Shadowboxing Treads is quite useful because you get a lot of value from AoE blackout kicks in this fight, and of course Crackling Jade Lightning. Nothing too much on the left side of the tree that's really relevant for this fight. And in terms of like gear and stuff, so this is where I ran Nether Prism. And once again, it's because I didn't have an Araz. If I had an Araz Ritual Forge, it's built for this fight. The issue with Nether Prism is, although the majority of the pull for this boss is single target, you still get no value. And that's when you lust, right? And Shadowpan loves lust. It fucking loves it way more than Conduit does. It's just so good because you can keep really good uptime on AoE with it. And you just get tons of Flurry Strikes out because you always have the energy to send out Tiger Palm, yeah? So not having a trinket on pull with the lust essentially just means you lose damage, right? And then realistically after that, you're only sending 2 sets of cooldowns out. So you'd only get 2 uses of Nether Prism compared to a Raz Ritual Forge's 3 sets of cooldowns. As well as that, the majority of the damage that you're going to do during those cooldown windows comes within like the first 10-ish seconds. And that's when the ads start dying, right? So Nether Prism will be good because it's got an agility buff for the entire thing. But a Raz Ritual Forge is better because it will have a higher agility buff just because Nether Prism won't be able to catch it in the amount of agility it gives you. and it will, although Araz decays, it's higher during the period that you want it, right? So this is an Araz antenna fight through and through. It's also not a very long fight. It used to be a bit longer, but now with the damage that everybody has and all that jazz, essentially you down this boss just after the second ad set. Potentially it might go on for a little bit longer, but even then, you're not realistically going to get another set of cooldowns out if you have enough damage to just take down this boss, right? So, and that's what's changed since Prog, right? During Prog, you actually had to race against time before the third ad set came, and essentially the third ad set would sometimes spawn, and it'd be mass panic to kill the boss before the ads killed you because you've already sent everything on the boss to try to get him down. Now it's, you kill it around the second ad set. We haven't downed it before the first ad set, but after the second one, at some point, is usually the downtime for this. I thought I'd bring up a raid plan for this one, because it's a little bit interesting. And you might see in raid plans for this as well, with all these knockbacks and things. I'm going to tell you a little cheat code for this boss that will make it infinitely easier. You don't have to memorize a raid plan at all for this boss. It's super simple. Get your tank to mark themselves, and always stand on them for the knockback. Easiest way to do this boss. I promise you. That's how we did it. I looked at this raid plan once before we progged it, and then our tank essentially said, I'm going to mark myself. Before the knockback, everybody just stand on me. And that's all you have to do. Then you don't have to learn any of these knockback rotations. You don't have to learn anything like this. You don't have to memorize every single set. There are like a bunch of sets that you need to can memorize. It's simply, before the knockback comes in, you stand on your tank, and you all get knocked in the same spot. It's worth noting here, there's no point using Transcendence for this fight. It can be okay to try to get back to the boss faster, but the issue is you need to land before you move. So if you're like mid-flight and then you Transcendence back to the boss, you're actually going to put a puddle under the boss, and it just doesn't work how you think it will work. Essentially, once you land, you just roll to him, and you'll always be within distance to just do a roll, or a flying serpent kick, or whatever, to get back to him. There's no need to really place Transcendences or anything like crazy creative here. Real simple fight on paper. Appreciate all the knowledge I passed down. No worries, my dude. If you have any questions as well at any point during any of these bosses or anything, feel free to ask. That's the that's kind of the idea. Trust me, I can and I will just yap. But if you have any questions about anything specific on bosses and stuff like that, feel free to ask. So now we'll go through the fight, and we'll start off. And I'll try to do play-by-through on this one as it goes on. Storm, Earth, and Fire. Oh, cool! I got a piece of loot. That's nice as well. Storm, Earth, and Fire is really important on this boss, and when you send Storm, Earth, and Fire is also really important. So you open up here with the standard single target opener, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, and then you start going. And throughout this fight, it's worth mentioning that you want to Crackling Jade Lightning almost every single set of ads. It's really crucial that you do this, even if it's not at 20 stacks. A lot of people get a little bit tunnel vision into 20 stacks. I need to send at 20 stacks. On this fight, you don't have to send at 20 stacks because you want to get the value of hitting 3 targets, right? So even if it's not 20 stacks, you still want the value. So I'm going to freeze it here. Right now, the ads are spawned, right? You can see that I've actually been saving spinning crane kicks. I don't think it pays off very well here because this ad set is the one ad set that gets instantly destroyed, but I do this throughout the fight. If I have a prop spinning crane kick, I will always try to save 1 for the ad sets. The main reason for doing this is the most value I'm going to get from a Dance of the Chuji spinning crane kick is when ads spawn, right? 3 targets minimum, going to do a lot of damage, get the most value out of it, and it stacks, so I might as well hold it. As well as this, instantly this is when I send out my second Storm, Earth, and Fire. The reason for this is that it's still during Lust. 33 seconds into the fight, right? Storm, Earth, and Fire is going to get benefit on boss damage, but also, I now proc Flurry Strikes. With this, I get the AOO, against all odds basically starting to stack, and every 120 energy I start sending out. So this is when I think the best time to send your first Storm, Earth, and Fire is. And so we keep going, and you see how fast the ads die. And I send out a Crackling Jade Lightning here. I should have sent the Crackling Jade Lightning out instantly on this first ad set, and I think I will in the future, because I didn't realize how fast this one set dies. It's just because everyone's got haste buff, right? And everybody's basically doing what I'm doing here, sending their cooldowns, their second set of cooldowns or whatever when the ads spawn. So I send out a Crackling Jade Lightning, but I don't get full value. I get full value on one ad, but one of them dies a little bit too quickly, right? But then, once again, you see, Tiger Palm, and I didn't get any of the spinning crane kicks there because the ads died too fast. It'll make a bit more sense on the next few ad sets when I do it. But there, you can see we all stood on top of the tank, got knocked back. The moment I land, roll into the boss. And you do that for every single knockback. You don't have to learn any of these positions. As long as your tank is stood in the right spot, That's all that you need to do. Once again, sat on 2 spinning crane kick stacks. Hopefully I send one now. Am I holding both? No, good. I don't hold both. Love a monk. And once again, 15 stacks of lightning, 16 stacks of lightning. They spawn. I send up my spinning crane kick, Whirling Dragon Punch, and then lightning. Right? To try to get as many stacks as possible before I send on these things. Because that's what you want to be doing. You want to get as many stacks as possible, but you want to get full value of the Crackling Jade Lightning. So it's this kind of delicate dance of how many stacks can I get before I am too late to send it and get full value. And then I got essentially full value, and I got good AoE on both of them. Now, this is one of 2 sets where you don't send Crackling Jade Lightning. And the reason for this, I'll actually freeze it. Although I have a notification telling me to Crackling Jade Lightning, I'm fucking stupid and I need to delete that. It is wrong, it is incorrect, bad monk. Basically, at 2 minutes is when the ads spawn, right? And I'm only going to get 1 Crackling Jade Lightning moment during that. Ads die really fast on this fight now, especially if everyone's got gear and stuff like that. You're going to get 1 opportunity to get a big lightning, and this is the one that you want on 20, because you're going to hit 5 targets every time, because all the ads run into you, yada, yada, yada. So here, once again, is when I'm actually playing, like, this is probably my weakest ad set, one of the 2 weakest ad sets. So all I'm going to be doing here is just, you know, spinning crane kicking, holding my spinning crane kick, just playing my rotation. The moment the ads spawn, that's when I'll start spinning crane kicking, you know, maybe a Fist of Fury. That's probably what I'm going to do next. Yeah, I can read my own mind. Amazing stuff. And this is the one time when I think you really need a defensive this fight, and it's before the explosion happens. I pressed Fuse Magic, it's big AoE magic damage, and now this is when things pop off. I'm on 20 stacks. I don't send it instantly, because I'm waiting for my Zuin and Storm Earth and Fire. I want to be at full AoE stacks. So you can see now it's hit blue. Well, my mouse is here, so that means I know that I'm at full 20% extra agility. Tons of ads still here. And then I Crackling Jade Lightning, and I'm just weaving Tiger Palms in. Every other ability is essentially Tiger Palm when possible, if I have enough energy to do so, to try to get as much value as possible. But you can see how fast the ads die, right? You need to get the Crackling Jade off pretty quickly. So essentially almost within like the first 2 or 3 globals after you send Zuin and Storm Earth and Fire. So now I send Storm Earth and Fire again, and I'll be honest, I regret this. I think I should send it on the next ad set. Because the issue is, those ads died so quickly, I barely got any value from it, right? So actually, in future pulls, I'm actually going to send it on this ad set that's about to spawn, because the benefit to that is everyone's already sent their cooldowns, right? Nobody's got cooldowns left, because we've all just sent them, except me, because my Storm Earth and Fire has a reduced cooldown. I'm winning. Also, I'll have a 20-stack lightning for these guys. So instead of sending it then when those phase blades are about to die, it makes more sense to wait for it here, get the 20 stacks, send the lightning, get massive flurry strikes on these 2 at full health, send the lightning into them, be top of the meters. And that's what I did a fair bit. I don't know why I changed it for this one particular pull. I guess I was trying it out, but I didn't like it. And once again, you can see I'm holding my spinning crane kick. And actually, you can see how long I hold it for, right? And I think it's really important to do this on this fight. So then I spinning crane kick, and then I send the lightning, right? Full value of the lightning, full value of the Dance of the Chi-Ji spinning crane kick. The one thing I think I could have done better this fight is actually getting more touch of deaths off on the ads. Maybe set 1, they die too fast to get it off. But the set before the 2 minutes makes perfect sense to get a touch of death off. Because those ads take a little while to die. And then it sends you into the big 2-minute cooldowns. Essentially with the extra 5% damage buff, right, from the touch of death. So that's probably the best time to do it. You do it on the ad set just before both of the big burst windows. I didn't quite do it this pull, but it's something that I'd do in the future, right? So, once again, going on. And then the next one's still the same. But you can see knockback here. Everyone stood on top of the market tank, and then I roll back in. It's as easy as that. No transcendence, no spatial rift needed. It's really simple. It's quite straightforward. As long as you can see some people were not stood in the tank, so you got a few puddles everywhere. So then you get this mechanic, pretty disgusting. Just get out the group, you know, unless you're one of the poppers, and then just be careful, get back in. And once again, we're about to pop here. I've got a spinning crane kick ready to go. I almost get 1 shot, amazing. Spinning crane kick, and then I'll send my lightning out to get full value of it. In fact, I might have sent it out a little bit late there from the looks of it. I should have sent it out 1 global sooner, so that was a bit of a mistake, actually. Once again, knockback, roll. And now we're coming up to the second set of ads where you also don't send Crackling Jade Lightning. And it's 4 minutes now, so you know at 4:20-ish, that's when the next big set of ads are coming out. I'm holding Zuin this entire time. I'm holding my Storm Earth and Fires. And essentially, this is when I'd say I should have touched to death again, right? Because then going into this one, I'll have the extra damage to go nuts. Once again, hold the spinning crane kick. Hold the Crackling Jade Lightning. Do not send it, otherwise you get no value from the big pack coming up. And now, I should have actually had a defensive here because this is going to hurt a little bit. I didn't. Unlucky me. Didn't actually hurt that much. And then once again, everything's spawning, and I send out Zuin and everything. Go absolutely ham. I'm holding Crackling Jade Lightning because I was... So it's worth noticing, I was holding Crackling Jade Lightning here, even though I'm at 20 stacks, because I knew not enough ads were in the vicinity of me to get a full value Crackling Jade Lightning. So I wait for enough to come in. The moment that one got pulled from the left, that's when I send. Because now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think there's a target behind. If not, I should have sent it a little bit later and got the full value from it. But you can see what I mean, right? You're waiting to get as much as you can, and then it's just weaving Tiger Palms in every other ability. You can see I even hold Fist of Fury there for a couple of seconds, because I know it's more important for me to get Shadow Flurry Strikes and all of these things. Absolutely mince them into Smithereens. And then I just send out my other Storm, Earth, and Fire here, because I just carry on the 20 stacks of AOO as best as possible. I mean, it dropped off. But there's no other real time you can send out Storm, Earth, and Fire. You can't send it out prior to that, otherwise you won't have it for your cooldowns. And then at this point, it becomes a single target fight no matter what, right? The idea is that you will kill it now, or you'll kill it in the next 30, 40 seconds before the next ad set spawns. So there's nothing really more that you're saving for. So the important thing on this fight is Storm, Earth, and Fire and Crackling Jade Lightning, really. When to send them, when not to send them, and then holding your cooldowns for specific things, and just standing on your tank during the knockbacks. Pretty straightforward fight. You can see just how much damage you can do with Flurry Strikes. Like, all this damage is going to be Crackling Jade Lightning and Flurry Strikes. So they're pretty hard carries on this fight, I'll be 100% honest. Like, there are amazing abilities on this. And it's why it is, on paper, probably the best Windwalker fight. Because other specs just can't quite do it every single ad set like we can. Like, essentially every ad set you can get amazing value from everything. But once again, I could have played the fight better. Touch of Deaths, I could have got better off. For sure. And also could have held that Storm, Earth, and Fire for the next ad set coming. Yeah, essentially that's Soulbinder. It's a pretty chill fight. But yeah, very fun Windwalker fight. You'll struggle to find other specs that can keep up to Windwalker on this fight if you play it like amazingly. And I think if I had an Araz Ritual Forge, it'd just be even higher. It would be disgustingly high. Easily the sort of fight I could see hitting like 10 millions, 11 millions eventually, like really, really easily. It depends, because you really rely on that second ad pack. The moment that we don't no longer get access to that second ad pack because you kill it too fast, that's when we'll fall off, and you'll actually not do as much damage as people that get to that second ad set, because it's so vital for your like damage to spike and stuff. Obviously, kill the boss faster, cool. But then in terms of like when to send cooldowns and stuff, you probably have to send them at a really awkward time with no ads. It'd be kind of cringe, but we're not quite there yet. But at no point will this fight ever turn into a conduit fight, I don't think. It's just too strong to have Crackling Jade Lightning and Storm, Earth, and Fire windows. So yeah, that's Soulbinder Nazindri. Alright, Loom'ithar. Find me this fucking bug. This is a interesting fight. It's going to need a little bit of pretext based on what my role was for it. As you can see, I am not stood with the group, and that's because I am Green Marker Goon. I'll bring up a sheet that kind of shows you what my role was. Oh, I also need to go through the summary of this fight as well, right? I'll go through the raid plan first. It's an interesting boss if you haven't done it. If you've done it, you know kind of how it works. But essentially, you're playing around the room in P1, where you start off over at this side, and then slowly and surely you move around the room until the web should look something like this, and then you're in P2, and then once again, you move around the room again. Relatively straightforward, but your marker, if you're assigned to a marker, like I was on Loom'ithar, you can see that I was green, rotation 2, odd. So that means every odd set of lasers or potential lasers that I could get, I had to be stood on this green marker to guarantee that I was one of the players blocking it. And that was for every odd set. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I know my odd numbers. Amazing. Cool. Math. And outside of that, then I move position and I stand somewhere else. It's worth noting that only 2 pylons activate at any time. These little pylon things. So the moment you, let's say star and purple spawn, right? These 2 pylons spawn, star and purple, in that one rotation that I'm meant to be on. The moment I see that, I know there's not going to be one on green. I move my position. There's no point hanging around here and not hitting like off-cleaving ads and stuff like that. Because otherwise I'm just going to be hitting the boss and doing nothing to these ads. So let's say I see orange and purple, then I move. But if I see green, I have to stay there for my set of stacks. I need to guarantee that I'm there when it's my turn to get hit with it, and that's when I pop defensive this fight. There's only 2 periods when you pop defensive really in P1, and that is if you're a pylon soaker. At that point, I pop diffuse magic and probably karma. And if you get the tethers where you need to run to the edge of the map, that's usually when I pop Fort Brew, because usually it can be a little bit late to get out there because you're obviously getting sucked in, and then there might be tendrils or whatever that you're waiting to break. Fortifying Brew just kind of covers you for that entire period, and then you run out. So that's kind of the game plan for Loom'ithar. This is a Shadowpan fight, but you can play Conduit, and I think both can do better than the other if you play it well enough and if the fight goes your way. It's kind of a Plexus Sentinel situation where the fight time's still fine for both cooldown-wise. I think, for the most part, Shadowpan probably gets more value from Crackling Jade Lightning. We'll go through that in a little bit. But Conduit will do some really good boss damage and really, really excel in P2 as well. I mean, Shadowpan's not like a pushover on this fight. It will still excel in P2 as well. But I think you're likelier to get more cooldown windows during the second phase, because little known fact, well, you probably know this fact, P2, when it comes down, it takes double damage. So that's actually when you want most of your damage to be coming out, and you want your big cooldowns as well to kind of line up with P2, because the boss takes double damage. So if you're unfortunate and you pop cooldowns just before he comes down, you essentially have missed out on like half the damage you would have done if you popped them like 20 seconds later, right? It's just how it is. Sometimes you have to for prog and stuff like that. But if you can ideally hold your cooldowns even like 10, 15 seconds or whatever to get them when it comes down, it's worth doing so because it's going to do double the damage, and we like double damage, right? Similar to Soulbinder, Crackling Jade Lightning. I probably shouldn't have taken Shadowbox and Treads. I don't know why I still ran this. I probably didn't switch talent builds, I'll be honest. I think I can guarantee I didn't switch talent builds. I wouldn't have taken Shadowbox and Treads. It makes no real sense. At no point are you ever going to hit the Tendrils and Loom'ithar together with a Blackout Kick. More likely, I would have taken probably Brawler's Intensity, potentially. Jade Ignition, maybe. Basically not Shadowbox and Treads. I don't really know why I ran this. I can guarantee almost to a fact that I didn't switch talent builds, and I'm running the exact same Soulbinder. But you can still run Zoon's Battle Gear. Still good. Useful. Because similar situation. It's mostly a single target boss, so you're getting value from Rising Sun Kick into Fist of Fury cooldown. As well as that, 2 minutes. You want to play 2-minute Shadowpan here. Just because it works nicely with the trinket selection and it suits the fight. It just plays better. Shadowpan in Raid doesn't play as well at 1 minute 30. It just plays better because you can take certain talents and stuff that replace Zoon's Bond. There are certain fights where you will play 130 Shadowpan, but we're not going to get to them for a little while. Once again, Trinket, Unyielding Nether Prism. I would prefer to Araz here. It's another one of those fights that isn't very long, 5 minute 30, and it's only going to get shorter, right? If you could get to 6 minutes, which you would have on prog, or like 6 minutes 20, let's say, because that's when your cooldowns would have finished, then Nether Prism probably gets more value. But once again, Araz is just so good for Shadowpan. If I had one, I would have run it. Okay, I think that it covers... I guess that covers the preamble yap. Where boss? There, boss. Alright, so I'm on my green marker, and this is going to look very similar to Soulbinder opener, because it is, you know, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm into cooldowns. So I'm on the green marker, and I'm waiting for the soak to come in. You can see the countdown coming in, waiting. I see that it is on purple, and it must be on the other side as well. So, because I know this, I move over in, like, almost instantly, but I know I'm not going to get one at this point. It's worth noting that with the Tangles, you don't want to send Crackling Jade Lightning on the first set of them, because it's just not built up enough. It was only like 10, 11 stacks. After the first set, you should get more or less 20 for every single Tangle afterwards. It's just the first one comes in so fast that it's not valuable. And I also send my second Stormwolf Fire here at the start because we're lusted, so I get as much haste bonus as possible to try keep up, you know, stacks, get more flurry strikes out. So this is when I make one mistake with Crackling Jade Lightning on this fight. And I think it's worth showing. Well, it is worth showing. It's worth showing you how to not Crackling Jade Lightning on this fight. And I mess up the first time. So we're going to have to talk about Crackling Jade Lightning here first. Crackling Jade Lightning works in like a 180-degree angle in front of your player. There is a distance between how far a target has to be from the next one to bounce, but it has to bounce more or less in front of your character. So the way that you play Loom'ithar is I should be standing here where this evoker is, facing the Tangles, and then Crackling Jade Lightning the boss. It will bounce to both of them. From the way that I'm going to do it, I waste my 20 stack. Because look, I hit the boss, I'm not looking at it. I goobered. It's not bouncing. Even though these are always in range, as long as you're looking in that direction, they're always in range. Because I'm not facing them, it doesn't hit them. Doesn't bounce off them. I do only boss damage here with Crackling Jade Lightning. Big mistake. So just worth noting, you should always be in a position where the boss is essentially in between your line of sight between these two tangles. It's worth trying to touch a death the tangle whenever possible, more boss damage. And this is the first time Transcendence actually gets use. I always place the Transcendence during this mechanic because you'll always have it back for the next one. And I stay in for more or less as long as possible. I'm a little bit greedy here. I wait for 1 second and then instantly Transcendence back. It's a little thing, but it just means faster uptime, right? And more uptime on the boss without having to run out a little bit too early. Very useful. Use Transcendence there. You can see no defense has been popped. Once again, I'm waiting on green. Spoiler alert, the mechanic doesn't come in. So because the mechanic doesn't come in, I move slightly because I know this, and I'm lining up my Crackling Jade Lightning here. So you can see now I've got them in my line of sight, but I'm still targeting the boss. And then I Crackling, and you can see now it hits both tangles. So you want it to be in line of sight. And that's why it's kind of almost good to be a pylon player at some points. Like, it kind of feels good to be on the pylons, because if you're on the pylon, you tend to usually... Well, I always found, because I was green for the most predominant part of the fight, I was always in a position where I could shoot it like this. So although I messed up the first one, you can see how my damage skyrockets. I'm not even on the meters, right? Look, not on the meters. Where is he? Where's my monk? He's doing no damage. Suddenly, Crackling Jade Lightning, I jump up to 5th, 6th position, just off of one Crackling Jade Lightning, right? It's why it's so valuable in this fight, to make sure you're hitting all 3 targets with Crackling Jade Lightning. And you can see it was pretty much 20 stacks. You should always be able to get 20 stacks as long as you don't get Mechanic, which we'll look at in a little bit when I do get Mechanic and I don't get 20 stacks. But you still send the lightning every tendril. Tendril? Are they called tendrils? Tangles? Whatever. 2 minutes, send your cooldowns. There's no point waiting for anything here. Just send your cooldowns because you're going to need them later in the fight. You basically want to send cooldowns on this fight. And then once again, it's just building up, right? It's my off... I'm not on green marker for this one. It's my off rotation, I guess we'll call it. And once again, I'm building up stacks with these tangles. Got to 19, got to 20, waiting for this last one to come in. Probably should have Fist of Furied. And then once again, I look at them. I look them dead in the eyes, but I target the boss still, and it bounces to them. So, this is where mistakes were a little bit made. I had a tether on me. So, mistakes were made on my part a little bit, but at the same time, these positions over here in the bottom right-hand corner are criminal. Because I don't want to place my thing on the right-hand side here, because this is where the entire group has to go. Everybody stood in front. They have to go in this area here. If I place it on the right-hand side here, I basically make the space really small for players to go to. However, there's a slight mechanic with this boss where if you break a tether on top of another web, you get stunned, as we'll see here. So I broke it on top. I get stunned. I thought I could thread the needle. I threaded the needle poorly. My mistake. Luckily, I am just on the edge here. So although I'm stunned, I cool out. I think I get Blessing of Protection. This might have been what saved me. But essentially I survived, right? I survived this. But bit of mistake on my end. But you can see how tight it is now already, the space. If I'd popped mine here as well as here, there'd be no space for the guild to stand. So technically, actually, this was the correct decision. Because there's a thingy over here. Some naughty player placed this over here. And there would have been no room, essentially, because another person broke their thing here. We'd all have, like, basically took tons of ticking damage, so... I didn't know this, actually, until I rewatched the footage, and I was like, actually, this was the correct decision. I'm not a numpty. So, good on me. Thumbs up. Once again, going to green, because that's my pylon position. And then it's just building up stacks. So I lost a lot of built-up stacks here. This is the one I was talking about, because I spent so long in the tendril, I didn't get to do the Transcendence tech. But it doesn't matter, I still send the lightning here. I don't let it build up more, because I know for the next set, I'll be able to get another Crackling. But also, spoiler alert, there is no set next set. Also worth mentioning here, this is the first time I got my soak. So you can see that I popped Karma for this one. And usually, you want to try let your soak stack up to 8, because there's 2 players per one. It shoots out 16 stacks worth of. So if you take 8, the other player takes 8. 2 thumbs up. We're happy with that. Luckily, my tank was doing nothing at this point, so it was just like, bro, I got you. And he just stood in front of it. Gamer. So I only got 2 stacks here. Probably not even worth the Karma. But I didn't know that before I popped the Karma, right? And now I line up again, and I hit both ads. Do I hit both ads? Tell me I hit both ads. That's kind of criminal if I don't. Yeah, I hit both ads because it's 180 in front of me. So you can see it. You can see it bouncing just there. But this is still tight, right? Like, my character is technically looking at it, but I should have faced my camera a little bit further the other way, because you can see that almost missed. So that's a little bit poor on my end. And then you can see here, I am saving my Storm Earth and Fire. I've almost let this stack up to 2, and I'm saving it because I knew that we were going to pop soon. and I want as much value from the double damage as possible in P2. So it kind of lines up almost perfectly, right? That we get this lineup like this. Because now he's basically phasing, and now I put my Storm Earth and Fire. So I basically didn't sit on 2 stacks for any longer than a second or so, and I get full value from it. So it is worth if it's possible, but you don't want to be sat there on 2 stacks for like a super long amount of time just so that you can get the value from it. I mean, you probably would benefit more, but you know what I mean? It's not worth like holding cooldowns for this for too long a period of time, but a certain amount of time is worth it. Like, what's that specific number of time? I don't know. It just is a number, right? Like, best judgment. In terms of defensives, I'm going to go back here because I was yapping. When he does the frontal on your group, did he already do it? Yeah, he already did. You don't have to pop a defensive for this. Unless it's Fortifying Brew, in which case Fortifying Brew will last for the entire duration of this mechanic and the next one. Don't pop your defensive on this. This is survivable. It's the pushback that you want to be popping your defensive on. Because this is the one that hurts the most. So I pop Diffuse Magic the moment it comes in, I take no damage to it. But this is the one that will kill players when things get a little bit hectic, everyone's stacking up, stuff like that. So it's not the frontal triangle cone pizza slice that you want a defensive, unless it's Fort Brew, it's that other one that you want to do. So you see me, I'll get the next pizza cone in a sec, and you'll see me Fort Brew that, because I know it's going to last the entire duration. And once again, cooldowns came off of cooldowns, just fully send, you know, boss taking double damage. Hit that fucking bug. What even is it, a moth? Yeah, smack that boy. It's a relatively simple P2, and it gets easier. Do I pop Fort here? I do, right? You can see 0.5 seconds before it comes out. That's when I pop Fort. Because I know I can take it, but I want it to last the entire pushback as well. I could have popped it earlier, right? But I was being a little bit risky. And it lasts the entire time of this pushback. I'm fine, take no damage. Depending on what group you are, this is a lot easier. Because I'm playing in Group 1, you can see how tight our space is. Look at Group 2 over here. They're having the time of their lives, these range players, right? Look how much room they've got to chill in. Whereas us melee are fighting for space here. And that's just how it is. That's just how the fight is. Eventually, once you move him around the room enough to get to this big open space here with no webbing, it's free. Because you've got so much room to move. But until then, it's really tight. So you do have to be careful with positioning. Keep an eye on health pots and health stone and stuff like that. Because it is really easy to die here. Especially if you touch this purple liquid here. Like one tick, you are probably half health, if not dead. On top of another combo, you are dead. So you always want to try to be on the furthest away part of this hitbox, if that makes sense. Because trust me, I've touched this more than I care to admit. It really, really hurts. And then once again, I have Storm Earth Fire here. I'm waiting to get 20 stacks of lightning because I want to get full value from it. Because I know it's my last set of cooldowns I'm going to get sent out. So I even put my Nether Prism. We got a lucky touch of death there that I completely planned. Trust me, bro. And now it's just send. And it's relatively simple now, this part of the fight. Because you see now the room's opened up a lot more. So now suddenly I've got tons of room to hide in, tons of room to play in. Even though I have no defensives left, I know I have a health pot, I'll probably be fine. On progress, this was a lot scarier when it did a lot more damage, and I probably would have called for externals. I would have asked my healer for their sack right here. Maybe a time, I forget what the evoker one's called, rewind, time dilation? I don't know, something like that. I would have called for it essentially because this point is very scary in the fight, especially in prog, especially if you know defensives left. And then, you know, I have Diffuse Magic up. I know the boss is almost over, but I'd use that. So you try, like, you can rotate each defensive for each set. I think you just miss one set, and then the rotation starts again. So there's, like, one set where you have to be really careful. Because you can, like, Diffuse the first one, Karma the second one, Fort the third one, or whatever order you want based on defensive from P1. And then there's one set, I think, where you don't quite have the defensive up, and that's when you need to probably be careful or look at health pot, health stone, that sort of jazz. Yeah, Loom'ithar, once again, 5-minute 36 kill, right? I think it can definitely go either way, Conduit or Shadowpan. Both are good for this fight. The reason a lot of players are playing Shadowpan, specifically, is essentially, yes, because of the Cracked and Jade Lightning on the Tendrils. Conduit struggles a little bit with keeping up with that sort of damage, because realistically at this point, by the time the Tethers or Tendrils, whatever they're called, get to the boss, they're dead. On prog, it was a lot tighter, but now, if you're playing Conduit, you're going to struggle to cleave, like slicing winds and stuff on the both targets, so it's more like very single target if you're playing Conduit, whereas with Crackling Jade Lightning, you're always cleaving off of them, right? You get big value. But, with that said, the shorter this fight gets in the future, the less Crackling Jade Lightnings you'll get off, the less value there might be for Crackling Jade Lightning, right? Because once again, it does a lot of damage. Let me try bring up the actual damage here because it's useful in this situation. So you can see Crackling Jade Lightning, third highest damage, right? And this is even with the scuffed one. So if I got that first one off correctly, it'd be higher, right? It'd be further up the meters than this. The less amount of times that you're able to Crackling Jade Lightning because you push the boss faster, it might actually be more Conduit favored because suddenly this becomes less valuable. And suddenly actual boss damage becomes more valuable. And I think maybe potentially Conduit might have the edge there. It's hard to tell. But it's one of those fights where I think you can go either or and you'll play it absolutely fine. The way Conduit would play for this fight is just the exact same way, just without having to worry about Crackling Jade Lightning positioning and stuff like that. And sending every woman at 30 right. It probably a lot simpler to play, but Shadowpan probably has the edge on it right now. Oh, I need a drink of coffee. My voice is getting croaky. Oh boy, I love coffee. Whenever you got time, can you show damage P3 Dimensius? Yeah, I can do it now, just while I'm in between bosses. It's not good. You're not going to be impressed. I promise you that. Trust me when I say that Conduit will be better for P3 damage 100%. With the issue, well, it'll be a survivability issue. Well, not even that. It's going to be more of a... Can you actually get the damage off with what's required from Conduit? So you can see it's not very high at all, right? Obviously, I died twice, but even if I didn't die, I'd be like here, max. It's not crazy high at all, the Shadowpan in P3. Surprisingly, it's Crackling Jade Lightning that's somehow near the top after Flurry Strikes, probably just because I Crackling Jade Lightning 20 stat during the amp. Conduit would definitely be higher. It wouldn't be top or anything, but I could see it competing with maybe the Demon Hunter in P3 damage. But then the biggest issue with Conduit, right, for Dimensius and P3 is to do that sort of damage. Right, Conduit's so reliant on you getting really good burst windows, right, making sure you play them really well. It's a very difficult fight with how much is going on at the later parts of P3 especially, to be able to get optimal like burst rotation and stuff with Conduit. I think maybe as prog gets like the boss time gets shorter and stuff, it'll be a lot easier. And it's not impossible. You can 100% play Conduit really well in P3 right now. I just didn't... It's not I didn't trust myself, it's that I progged Shadowpan so much more that I felt that I was just better suited to play Shadowpan for this fight to try and survive the fight. Because at the end of the day, our damage mattered, but what mattered more was getting enough players to a certain threshold in the fight, which was like 9 minutes-ish. If you had like all 20 or roughly alive, this boss died, even if your damage was like pretty lower. It was all about players more than individual damage. Obviously, individual damage is important, but I valued survivability a bit more. And I knew that I could, even though the damage wasn't as high, I knew I could get more damage out of Shadowpan because there was less risky overlaps where I'd be thinking to myself, can I actually slicing winds in this instance? How long am I going to have to delay strike and slicing winds to actually get value from them? That's not to say you can't. I definitely think you can get more value from Conduit and P3, which theoretically is the only damage that actually matters in this fight, right? P1 is going to die. P2, they're going to die. P3, it is a race against time still at this point in prog, like a super race against time. So if that damage will make the difference, play it. I play Conduit. If the value of the damage you're going to do outweighs how many times you potentially lose damage or die, play Conduit. It'll be better for this fight, for when you want damage. Alright, I'll leave that log up for now, because I'm going to use that in a sec. Alright, we've looked at Loom'ithar. Now for Forgemaster Araz, me best mate. My favourite boss fight in the entire raid, Forgemaster Araz. Not so much now. I don't like it as much because the fight's kind of cheesed a little bit, so it's not its true version. I never fought it before it was nerfed, by the way. But even like on the PTR, it was such a fun fight when you got to play the entire thing. Even like pre or like post nerf, it still was quite a long fight. I don't know, just something about it. The mix of constant adds with huge amount of damage. I just wish that P3 was a bit longer. which is probably not what most people want. You don't. P3 is terrifying. Like, it's a race against time, but it's so cool. You're getting sucked into the void. You have all these ads spawning. Like, it's a race against time. It like feels really like it's really engaging. Like it's like very thematic. But nowadays you literally just push it and that P3 is like 20-30 seconds. Like, it's like barely any time at all. But still, like, I think it was my favorite boss to prog. I really love this boss. All right, give me 1 sec. Let me recuperate, and then we'll go. All right. Forgemaster Araz. It's a Shadowpan fight. I think you probably can play Conduit here. I think there is an argument that Slicing Winds might have value here. And on the PTR, I actually played a lot of Conduit on this fight, and I thought Conduit might actually have the edge here. But it's the same as Soulbinder. It's almost the same as Loom'ithar. When there are any ads that get involved in a fight, Crackling Jade Lightning has so much freaking value. Just being able to hit five targets with a Crackling Jade Lightning, 4 or 5 targets with a Crackling Jade Lightning 20 stack every single time, Conduit struggles so much to keep up with that damage. It's just so powerful, and that's why Conduit was so strong last year as well in Undermine when you ran the Crackling Jade Lightning build on certain bosses, because what carried your damage, even with Conduit, it was Crackling Jade Lightning. Well, because you have to go Slicing Winds all down this tree now, and you lose too much down the middle that you need this tier, and can't go Crackling Jade Lightning with Conduit, realistically, that is why Shadowpan's so good for this fight. On top of that, Flurry Strikes are just fucking, they're overpowered, right? I mean, let's have a look at the damage breakdown. You can see Flurry Strikes, Crackling Jade Lightning, 2 of the highest. Obviously, it breaks down Storm, Earth, and Fire. But once again, Crackling Jade Lightning, highest Storm, Earth, and Fire ability, right? Your damage is carried by these 2 abilities, similar to Soulbinder. Fist of Fury is still good, but when your highest damage is Crackling Jade Lightning that you press like 7 times, and Flurry Strikes that you just activate by like Tiger Palming, Conduit struggles to keep up with this, and that's why this is also a Shadowpan fight. And it's a fun fight. I love this fight. Once again, Unyielding Nether Prism. You can see Forgeweaver Araz used to be like an 8-minute fight. Nether Prism used to have a lot more value here. I would run Ritual Forge, Araz Ritual Forge for this fight 100% now. Similar to how I'd run it on Plexus, how I'd run it on Loom'ithar, how I'd run it on Soulbinder. These fights are just so short that Nether Prism, the value that you lose from not having it at the start outweighs the value that you gain from having it stronger later on in the fight, if that makes sense. Obviously, didn't have the option to run Araz, so I'd ran Nether Prism. Still a good trinket, right? Every time I said that Nether Prism, like, I'd run Araz, it doesn't mean Nether Prism bad. It just means that I think Araz just does the job it needs to do better for these certain fights, because they're now so short. 5-minute 30 is not a long fight, especially when a lot of this time is actually just spent in a kind of downtime period in the middle here when you're hitting the conveyors. We'll call them conductors. I'm sure they're not actually called conductors, but and you're doing basically no damage here because it's all just single target cringe. So yeah, Araz Ritual Forge, Crackling Jade Lightning. In terms of builds, this is actually a Shadowbox and Tread fight. You get a lot of value from the ads. They're constantly spawning. Getting Blackout Kick Cleaves really good. Once again, as with a lot of these bosses, I do run Zuin's Battle Gear because at the whole heart of them, you want to do boss damage, right? And Fist of Fury is still really valuable. And for the majority of the fight, it is, in quotation marks, a single target fight because the boss is mostly up more than there are ad spawns, right? So you do still want to get the value from getting Rising Sun Kick into Fist of Fury more often. But during AoE, I rarely Rising Sun Kick because my job during AoE is predominantly to be getting Tiger Palms out. So in the big AoE situations, you'll rarely see me actually using Zuin's Battle Gear to its full effectiveness because I'm focusing more on Tiger Palming more than anything, because Flurry Strikes are what are carrying this fight, along with Crackling Jade Lightning. Other than that, nothing too crazy here. I did take Peace and Prosperity and Tiger's Hail Sweep for this one, and it's worth actually going over this sheet here for this one. So you can see just how important it is to get CC. out for this fight, and it is worth having sort of, maybe not sheets like this detailed and stuff, but everybody needs to be aware when they're using their CC. So I was basically assigned quite a lot of CC here, leg sweeps, rings of pieces, leg sweeps, rings of pieces, stuff like that throughout the fight. So just making sure I had the extra cooldown on them and had the bigger range for leg sweep was quite vital as well. Because the bigger range, like sometimes your leg sweep just isn't wide enough. Well, might as well just take the talent and that increases it a little bit, because if the ads don't get leg swept, you're in for a bad time. Alright. Let's find it then. I need to find the kill one, because I do actually think we wiped. Yeah, it's this one. Alright, so pretty standard opener, as per with every single one of these bosses, right? They kind of start off as single target fight, so you go, you know, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, into, you know, Zuin, Storm Earth and Fire. Now, the big difference that's changed with this fight is it is now a Lust on Pull fight. But for some reason, we didn't Lust on Pull. I don't really know why. But for a lot of guilds, you now strategize to actually Lust on Pull, or potentially, like, we're going to do Lust a little bit later. So with the ads, you always... So there are two ways of doing this. It depends how your guild wants to do it. One way is to have your ad spawners behind the portal, which is absolutely fine. The other way is to have them in front and have someone knock them back, usually like an Evoker or a Druid. We opted for this strategy. The main reason for doing so is that you actually get more boss uptime by doing this. Because if you have 3 players that run to the back here, then the ads run through. The ads actually take a little bit longer to get on top of the boss, and to hit these ones at the back as well whilst they're running through takes away a bit from boss damage. So having like everything kind of stacked up is important. So you can see I actually hold for a sec here. So even though I'm going to send out a Crackling Jade Lightning here, do not damage these ads until they've been knocked into the portal. The biggest mistake you can make is sending Crackling Jade Lightning or something straight away. These ads have a DR on them until they've touched this portal. So until they've actually set foot inside of the gunk, they take like 99% reduced damage. So if they spawn and you instantly Crackling Jade Lightning, that does 0 damage. You do absolutely no damage to anything, and you've kind of like screwed yourself a little bit. So I wait a little bit, I wait for 16, and then I send, right? I'm trying to make sure that the Echo actually spawns as well, so I can get a bounce off of that thing and just get as much value as possible. It's kind of a tightrope of how long can you wait before the manifestations die, before your Crackling Jade Lightning like stops doing damage because they've died, but you want to get the full value of it. So it's early is probably better when the manifestations actually come out. Because I wanted to hit the Echo a little bit as well, I did wait a sec. And you can see here, I don't send my Storm Earth and Fire with this set here. Even if we lusted, I wouldn't have done it. And it's a lot of Windwalkers do this. And I understand why. You want to benefit from Bloodlust with the haste and stuff, because it was technically still inside the window. But I think you get less value from this because the ad sets are... There's only one ad set for this first one. So you're essentially only getting Storm Earth and Fire value for one set of ads. So you can see I have it set up here for the next set, although it will double stack a little bit. So I'm now at 2 stacks for a couple of seconds. I still think it's worth it. So you can see I'm getting ready here to send everything, Crackling Jade Lightning ready. And I send, I go, I get in my soak at the last second, I leg sweep, I do all this jazz, and then I'm fully sending on everything here. And then I get ads on myself again. And this is what I mean by having the double set of Storm Earth and Fire. Because now my Storm Earth and Fire is still going. I still get double Flurry Strikes here. I hit them with double Flurry Strike, and I save my Lightning. I don't Lightning on the first set. Was I at 20 stacks? I think it was because I wasn't quite on 20 stacks, and I knew that, and because I had to do this whole gimmick of jumping into the soak and get my CC off, I felt that it was better suited, because you're only going to get one set of Crackling Jade Lightning for this set of ads, these 2 sets regardless, so I thought send it out on the second set, makes a bit more sense to do so. As well, I still have my Storm Earth and Fire running, so this is why I value the Storm Earth and Fire being sent out here a bit more, because you get it basically for the 2 sets of ads rather than the 1. Even though you get like 3 seconds on double Storm Earth and Fire stacks, I think it's worth the trade-off. I'll be 100% honest, and I will die on this hill. So next set of ads is going to be the 3 set of ads, and this is when you have all your big cooldowns. So we're building up Crackling Jade Lightning again. We're only going to get 1 send out here, because you'd only get 120 stacks, and on this fight in particular, you do want to send at 20 stacks when possible. So you can see the ads spawn, and this is when I send. I send out on this first set here, because I know it's going to last for the majority of every single set that comes out. Get ads again, stand in the correct position, build up my Lightning a little bit. I wait for them to get knocked in, and then we send our Lightning. So sending out lightning too early is a mistake here. If I sent it out as they dropped on the floor, I would have hit them all, but I would have done no damage, right? And that's the big issue here. It's also worth sending on the first set of ads, because even though you can send a little bit later and get the last 2 sets here, cooldowns are quite important here because it's only a 5-minute 30 fight, so you don't really want to delay much. You kind of want to send on cooldown, and it lines up to do so. Once again, finish the ads, yada yada yada. I'm really talking about defensives here. Probably worth talking a little bit about defensives. Defensives are an interesting one on this fight. I always pop Diffuse Magic before he knocks you back, because it does a lot of arcane damage, so it's the one time I have like assigned Diffuse Magic, because the knockback actually hurts. My other 2 defensives, they used to be pretty set in stone, based on if you get the ad mechanic, or if there's a lot of raid damage coming out, but the damage has been nerfed quite a lot. I play mostly reactive defensives here. So if I get an ad set on me, or I see that I get hit by there's like random targeted damage on this fight from the collectors. Like you can get zapped by 3 collectors all at once. It's RNG, it can happen, it sucks. I try to play a little bit more like reactive defensive here, except for my set 1 defensive that I do for the knockback. And then once again, just finish off the ads, and then go to your collector. Pretty boring now. Not much going on in the collector, I'll be honest. I don't send any cooldowns on this collector, there's no point. It's just a dodge beam sort of thing. This is the one other time that I send out defensives. So defensives for this part of the fight are both Fortifying Brew and Karma, because as this ramps up, the damage hurts a lot. So once you're at like a few stacks, then the pop Fortifying Brew first, then Karma. You can see as well, because the ads got brought over to me, I was actually holding my strike, my lightning, so that I could hit all 3 targets, so I get value from Crackling Jade Lightning, even during the intermission, right? I hit 3 targets rather than 1 collector. Some value. I pop my Fort Brew, and then I pop Karma here in a sec. I'm 85% sure. I'm probably waiting for the damage to tick a bit harder, and then I send my Karma just to guarantee that I can get over the finish line here. You do want to down these all within roughly the same time, even though you have a 10-second window. It's still valuable to try to get them all down. You can see how much damage we're taking, right? People are dying because these collectors haven't all died. We've taken a while. We were very lucky not to wipe here, to be honest. And I'm at 2 stacks now, Storm and Fire again. That's absolutely fine. I send one out instantly, and I'm actually going to crack the Jade Lightning early here, even though it's at 16 stacks, because I want to hit all 3 targets. The boss is on a damage amp, but I'm also get value from hitting 2 extra targets before they perish. If they perish, I lose out on a lot of lightning damage from not hitting the extra 2 targets, right? And all I do here is I send out the 1 Storm, Earth, and Fire. And that's all I give the boss during its damage amp. So you're actually only going to get 1 damage amp here now, because we push it so fast. And then I'm actually going to hold my cooldowns here until we get the next ad set, because the next ad set is another 3-setter. So it sounds like it's a while. It sounds like it's a lot of time to hold your cooldowns here, but you're also building up lightning stacks anyway, and you want the full value of your cooldowns, right? So the moment these ads get knocked in, time to send my coolies, and then we suddenly send everything. I build up lightning to 20, send it out, almost get one shot by something, and essentially once the boss hits 15%, that's when it phases. So you get the full duration of your cooldowns for this period here. We almost wipe here because they didn't get knocked in, and the ads are running to the thing, but because the boss phased, they disappeared. That was almost a massive wipe. We got extremely lucky. And then I saved 1 Storm, Earth, and Fire here for the very end of the fight, because I knew how low the boss was. And I thought to myself, well, there's tons of ads spawning at the end. You need as much damage as possible at the end. Might as well hold here for a little bit, so that we can absolutely nuke this guy down. So if you get the ads, make sure you stood in the corner. And then you're just basically playing a race against time. And it's not as, like, dangerous as it used to be. I almost get 1 shot here. Amazing. And then once the ads spawn, that's when I send my Storm, Earth, and Fire, start getting some Flurry Strike value. And then we send out the Crackling Jade Lightning at 20 at the very end, whilst we get sucked into the abyss, and the boss kind of just flops over. So, what we learned from this fight, essentially, you are sending cooldowns at kind of specific times. The idea is to send out your big cooldowns during the 3 sets of ads at 2 minutes and at about, it's like 4 minutes 20 or something, 4 minutes 4:30. And you should always get this. For another while at least before we get to the point where you push the boss so fast. And at that point, when we get to the point where you push the boss so fast, I would actually probably hold my cooldowns for the final phase, P3, when there are ads again. The main reason for this is that even if you sent it 4 minutes, you would never get another set of cooldowns. Like, the fight's not going to 6 minutes at that point, right? So essentially, you're only getting 3 sets of cooldowns on this fight. One's going to be sent at 0, one's going to be sent at 2. And then your last set of cooldowns usually wants to line up with when they're the most amount of ads spawning to get the most value from Crackling Jade Lightning, get them all down, yada, yada, yada. And then, yeah, once again, as I said, defensives are very reactive now for this fight. It's just, if it looks like you're taking a ton of damage, pop a defensive and try have one for the knockback, big AoE knockback. It used to be so much more punishing on damage. Everything was assigned. So, like, throughout this fight, you might have seen, like, tons of assignments for defenses and stuff that I didn't pop, stuff like that. It's just not as necessary anymore. Healers are more geared, shit like that. You know how it be. Didn't even use my health stone or health pot. It's just defensive when you need defensive. The only time I'd say that there are definite defensives are the knockback, as I said, and the intermission. If it's one intermission or two intermissions, because the pylons hit so hard now, or like they still do, because it lasts a while, because it's only a single target, and people are holding cooldowns for the amp, you kind of always want Fortifying Brew for about the halfway point, and then Karma at the very end, just to get the bonus health from Fortifying Brew, but also just to carry over to the end. So that's the idea for Araz. It's a fun fight, but it's a lot shorter. 4:30 is a super short fight when this used to be like 8 minutes. And the only thing that will really change is when you send out your last set of cooldowns, your last Zuin and your last Storm and Fire, which I think will just end up being P3 eventually. Maybe even the damage amp. No, you wouldn't have it for the damage amp, would you? It will just end up being P3. This fight's going to get so short that there's no value from sending it any other time than when the first set of ads spawn in P3 when you're all getting sucked back. That will be what this fight turns into, I promise. So 0, 2 minutes, and then during that will be cooldowns. And then, you know, using your extra Storm, Earth, and Fire during Crackle, Jade, Lightning windows to make sure you get as much value from Crackle and Jade Lightning as possible. That's the idea, anyway. Alright, Araz, we will... Oh, wrong. I need to decide if I'm doing Fractillus next. I think I'm doing Fractillus next. Because that's the way we downed it. So, yeah, Fractillus. Let me have a look at some of these raid plans, see if there was anything I was going to show. I don't think so. It's a very simple fight. No, I don't think so. I think I'll show you this. Because this was our raid plan, essentially, for the fight. We didn't have, like, an actual raid plan like this. It was all, like, these images here. One thing to note is you kind of have a set position within the fight, or you should have a set position, because every single player gets the massive circle on them right after the break. I was always orange 4, so up here in the top left corner. These positions are not set in stone, right? Like, let's say everybody on orange has to do a break. Everybody then, like, you're ranged, you're immobile range, you're not running to the other side of their room to get into their position, are they? It's impossible. They'd be trolling. So it's more like a guideline. For a lot of these, yes, my position was orange 4, but sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's, you know, use your, you know, what's the word? Intuitive. Be smart with your movement. And we're watching this fight that I wasn't. I was a stupid boy who jumped back to number 4 at one point and almost killed himself / other players, because that's just bad play. But I can show you, but it's easy to show you the punishment of it as well. There is Transcendence tech for this boss, and it comes in the form of your position. You'll see that as well, and we'll talk about defenses as well for this boss fight. But first of all, we'll talk about Conduit versus Shadow Pan. Initially, I think this was a Conduit fight, and I think it's because the timing of this fight was perfect for Conduit. You kill this boss on prog, or like a few weeks ago, at about 5:20 20-ish. The benefit to that is you've sent your 4:30 cooldowns as Conduit, which means you finish more or less at the end of, like, your cooldown, like a little bit afterwards, but you finish, like, pretty soon after your cooldowns. Whereas Shadow Pan, you would have sent at 4 minutes, which means you actually would have sent like a minute and a half. You kill the boss a minute and a half after your cooldown, so you've actually had a lot of downtime between, whereas Conduit didn't. We now down this boss at 4:43. This is a really fast kill. And this meant that I didn't get full value from my Conduit cooldowns, because I had a break. I wasn't able to properly do it. Like, my cooldowns would have been sent at 4 minutes 33-ish. So I'd only have got 10 seconds anyway of my cooldowns regardless, even if, like, I was able to get it with the break. So the issue now comes in, well, this boss is only going to die faster, right? It's only going to be quicker kills, quicker takedowns. So, what does that mean? Well, that means the cooldown of 4 minutes actually sounds a lot better, right? Well, suddenly Shadow Pan's now better for it. you killed the boss sooner to the 4-minute window than you did to the 4:30, it actually makes sense to play Shadowpan. And I think the faster you down this boss is actually going to change which one's better. If you kill it closer to a Shadowpan cooldown window, it will play better for Shadowpan. If you kill it closer to a Conduit cooldown window, it will play better for Conduit. So it's going to be like almost a week-by-week basis on how much faster you kill the boss on the next reset. So right now, I think this is a Shadowpan fight. It's one of those fights where you kind of have to have Araz Ritual Forge because it's such a short fight. Nether Prism, you'd only get two sends of Nether Prism, which is just not good enough. And that's why I ran Lily as well for Conduit. It's just not good enough to only have 2 sends of Nether Prism. Potentially even 3. Well, 2.5, I guess, if we're counting the pull you're about to see. Whereas Lily gets the one on pull when you've lusted. We love lust. We love having buffs during lust. So Lily for Conduit makes sense, or another 1-minute 30 trinket. I don't think there are any, actually. Lol. Good game. Or a 2-minute trinket, or for 2-minute for Shadowpan, something like, obviously Araz, maybe Signa, the Priory could also be another 2-minute one. Something that just lines up nicely with 2 minutes. And then once again for Conduit, pure single target, nothing special or exciting here in terms of build, 1-minute 30, Zuin's battle gear. This is pretty standard single target Conduit. If I was playing Shadowpan, it would be pure single target 2-minute Shadowpan, which would look, well, I was going to say similar to this. It wouldn't look similar to this at all. On prog, I ran Nijiao's Protection, and that's because I timed Fortifying Brew with the worst damage. As the heals have got stronger, because healers have got more gear, and we've got more gear, and we take less damage, Jade Sanctuary is probably fine to take. But Nijiao is actually pretty good as well. Also worth noting here that this is the first time I take Iron Shell Brew, and I recommend you do as well. Because the breaks, right, essentially okay, we'll go through the fight, but essentially you're not going to Fortifying Brew on this fight, or shouldn't have to, under 2 minutes from the last one. Every 2 minutes is when you have to Fortifying Brew, so you might as well get the extra, damage reduction and stuff like that. And that's why Nijiao's was also good, because she's got the massive, Mana Shield? Absorb Shield. But now I just take Jade Sanctuary because I don't need the shield. It's just unnecessary at this point. But I'd run this Shadowpan as well. Iron Shell Brew. Alright, let's check her out. There's not going to be much to say on this fight in terms of, things to look out for. It's not going to be like me talking a lot about when to send cooldowns and stuff like that, because I'll be honest, you send cooldowns on cooldown for this boss. It is a weak horror fight, right? All you need to just be aware of are markers and your position during the intermission, right? What is my marker? When I need to do a break or I need to do a place. Where am I roughly meant to be standing during each of the, damage reduction things? So, important to note, I pop Karma and Pull here. And it's useful because the next time I'm going to Karma is exactly roughly 1-minute 30-ish from now. So Karma and Pull for this boss, you won't need it another time. Defensives on this fight always come at a break. So what does that mean? The break happens, that's when a few players get pushed back and break the wall. And then the big circles spawn. If you get a break mechanic, you pop a defensive a split second before it goes off, so you get the defensive for the break, and then you also get it for the big circles. If you don't get a mechanic, you don't get one of the break mechanics, you pop your defensive just before the circles come in, or prior. So you can see I actually Fortifying Brew here. This is worthwhile mentioning, actually. There is a very specific time Fortifying Brew is the only one that doesn't because of the 2 minutes. I will go back here. Oh, I went back too far. You need to Fortifying Brew at a very specific time before the first break. Go on, where is it? I jumped back so far. Whoops. Come on, do the countdown. Right, 6 seconds from now. I'll freeze it when I Fortifying Brew. So this is the one time that you do press Fort Brew. Let's say you had the break, for instance. I don't have the break. I still press it the split second before the break. It's important to do this because of the 2-minute timer on it. Right, so now this comes in, and Fort Brew, because it lasts for 15 seconds, right? It lasts for this entire time. And then that allows you to have it for the next break in the cycle when you actually need Fort Brew. So I'm stood in my position. You can see about 500 other people stood in my position as well. So I try to find a safe spot. That was very scuffed. But you can see how little damage you actually take on these things at the start of the fight, because everyone's got cooldowns, yada, yada, yada. And Fort Brew just gives me a lot of protection there as well. It's your best defensive for this. my video freeze, or did I freeze? No, the video froze. So Thought Brew is by far the best defensive for this. Actually, Fuse Magic's also pretty good, but I prefer Thought Brew because you can give it the Iron Shell, which means it lasts longer, so it can be better for the break and for the circles. But Diffuse is probably the actual strongest one in a split. So you can see I've barely had any mechanics at the moment, and I'm going to get my cooldowns again in 15 seconds. You can see that I have my Diffuse timer come in. It's just so that I know that if I get the break, I pop it. I'm holding it still, I'm stood in my position, and then I diffuse magic, right? I diffuse magic just before it comes in, because then it'll be up for the next one. And I moved into the safe spot as well. You can see that even though my spot was orange, right? This is my spot on the sheet. Someone else was overlapping me. Do I just stand there like a melon because it's my spot? No, I moved to the open area because, you know, let's try not overlap as much as possible. You know, if you can find a safe space, try run into it, because eventually these will hurt. And even if you're not getting one shot, because we have good defenses, this is one fight where I think our defenses are really good, because they work like just well for this fight. Other players' defensives do not work well for this fight. Other specs' defensives are not as good as ours. They don't have a defensive like this for every single set that do exactly what we need them to do for it. So a lot of the time, even though you're overlapping, you might survive. Your friend, if they're a shaman, they're fucked. I'll tell you that. if there's someone with like limited defensives, they ain't gonna have a good time. Yeah, once we come out of that, instantly send cooldowns on cooldown, like 1 minute 30 odd whenever I sent them last. And Conduit's good for this fight. It plays out. The benefit to 1 minute 30s is that there's actually no overlaps with the breaks. The worst times to really send cooldowns are essentially the breaks, right? Because you don't want to be sending out a cooldown when you're getting knocked back or having to move into position and stuff like that. But for 1 minute 30s, they line up kind of pretty much perfectly. There is one situation where they slightly overlap, but it's not the end of the world. That was an amazing play by me there. See that? I walked into the boss to try to get into a safe spot, got knocked into all the circles, survived. It is possible. I had no big defensive there. Bad play / small brain. Yeah, you like, there's not much to talk about. Like, it is literally just make sure you stand in the right spot. Because if you mess up once, and people don't know about it, it's probably a wipe, right? Like, the spawns, I've all played with a weak aura, but the weak aura doesn't fix itself if you put it in the wrong spot. If I put it in star there and didn't say anything, the weak aura doesn't just fix itself for everybody, you're right. You will just wipe because no one else will be playing off that information. They'll be playing on the information that you place in the right spot. So this is one of those examples where, although I'm orange at the moment for this position, I noticed there were like quite... Well, actually, orange is quite open. I should have moved. The reason I didn't is I saw that there were orange breakers here. In replay, I should have moved to orange 100%. But because I saw that people were breaking on orange, I thought this would be a lot more crowded. You'll see later in the fight that like certain things like this do happen. When lots of people break, they don't run over. I guess we just had a lot of players that had run over at the time. So instead I tried to find an open spot here. I just about do before it pops. So this was fine. And this is just because the other player moved to let me in there, right? But realistically, I should have moved over. Otherwise, you get lots of stacking. But once again, Fortifying Brew. Good time to pop Fortifying Brew. That overlaps with that. Running out of things to say for this fight because it's not the most engaging fight and there's really not much to say about it. I'll be 100% honest. It is just a weak aura fight. What's coming up? 1 minute 30 cooldowns again. 3 minutes. What are we going to do? We're going to send them. Yeah. Like, it can actually be worth mentioning. Let's go back a little bit. Because I'm not actually that familiar with 2 minute cooldowns here. Right, so I think what you do here is, because this is when Zuin would come back up, right? If you're playing Shadowpan, for instance, 2 minute cooldowns. I would wait till this finishes, and you're in a safe spot, or at least be in a safe spot, and then I'd send my cooldowns. It would be a couple of seconds later, but that's when I'd send it. I wouldn't send it as the break comes in or anything, because it's too messy. But if you are playing 2 minute Shadowpan, I'd just wait a couple of seconds. It won't make much of a difference in the grand scheme of things, and then that's when I'd send out my cooldowns. I imagine it's the same for 4 minutes. We can have a look at that. What do we do here? We're just spawning a wall, sending our cooldowns. Very engaging fight. Very engaging fight. Can we get to 4 minutes? Right, so here's another situation. Right, so this is when I'm going to do my Transcendence thing. And there were some pools where I got to do this loads, some pools where I didn't. It really depended if I got the break wall on orange to really do this. Because if I got another spot, there was no point ever doing it. Because my spot was like in the orange area, right? If I got blue, there was no point in putting a Transcendence down and porting back to that, because there would be another player stood on blue. So I play here, I put my Transcendence, and I pop Karma, please? Yeah, I pop Karma just before it comes in. And then I dash and Transcendence back. Now, in a smart person's world, I would have noticed there were a lot of players here and just stayed in the back and suffered the loss. I properly Transcendence really quickly, and now I'm stacked for like 3 players. Jesus Christ, help me. I should have died. Bad thing. Because you can see how much room there is actually here at the back. There's a ton of room here. So realistically, the best thing I should have done is not insta-transcended, because there were a lot of people already here. I should have just stayed at the back, wait for these to blow, and then stand in a safe spot like over here or over there. But just showing you, this will show you that you can Transcendence back to your spot after you get knocked. You get knocked, you can do like a roll light the net instantly back to where you are with Transcendence. So that's a good way of trying to do that. Sometimes it works amazingly. Like on the first breaks and stuff like that, barely anybody stands in different positions because there's not a lot going on. So I found that was always like the best time to get that off and always just instantly get back into my position, back on the boss, hitting, stuff like that. And once again, working out, we're at 4 minutes and a break has just gone off. But because we delayed the initial Shadow Pan cooldowns here, if we were playing Shadow Pan, you'd have your cooldowns up now, and then you'd send them. So actually, like, 2-minute Shadow Pan, you just delay your cooldowns by about, like, 6 seconds at 2 minutes and 4 minutes, and then you'd absolutely send. Other than this, we have one Fortifying Brew, and this is why we look Fortifying Brew, because the next breaks are going to be relatively brutal. We don't really see them, because now we killed this boss so fast. But this is one of the hardest sets in the entire thing. Probably the hardest set, because I think you do multiple, you do like the big wall break. You can see how many of us are on orange, right? Like, this is stupid. And this is why I always saved a big Fortifying Brew for this one, because if you got this, you're taking a shit ton of damage from breaking this. On top of that, you've then got to have defensive running for the next set. So that's why I always pop Fortifying Brew very early in the fight, then at the midway point, and then always had it back up for this point. And 2 minutes just helps that. Like the 2 minutes Fortifying Brew with more damage protection, really good for this. Because you can see, like, if you're unlucky enough to get in this row, you are just taking so much damage from everybody in the break and all that. Like, it's the worst overlap in the entire fight, the most dangerous one. You can see even Health Pot, Health Stone's called in the note, right? This is the one that you want your best defensive for. And Diffuse Magic's good, but I'd rather just have the Fortifying Brew here. And if I was playing Conduit, which I was, Nijiao's protection for the extra 25% health shield. Very strong in this position. And then this is why I don't like Conduit as much, because like you can see how fast the boss dies, and usually I would have sent cooldowns after this knock, even though like we're well past 4 minutes 30, right? I would have sent it out after this knock. The boss is dead. Like, the boss is literally dead. So this is why I get so little value from the Conduit cooldowns now, and why I keep saying that I think this boss is a lot of bosses as well. Like, what have I gone over? Plexus Sentinel, Loom'ithar. I think they're very dependent on kill times, which is going to make or break it. And I think if your kill time is literally when we did it now, like 4:44, that's a horrible kill time for Conduit. Because of the break overlaps. If you're able to send at 4:30 without a break, fine. That's just not how it works. There's a break there. You've got a lot of damage to avoid and stuff like that. It just doesn't time out very well for it anymore. Whereas if you down it around 5 minutes, that 4:40, when you send the cooldowns, that lines up perfectly. You just finish the boss fight after sending out Conduit cooldowns. Amazing. Thumbs up. You're in a really good position. And that's why I think Shadow Pan's just going to play better in this fight for a while, until we start getting to sub 4-minute kills, in which case, then I think Conduit's probably stronger again, because it will have had the cooldowns which were more close to downing the boss, right? So that's how I think these sorts of bosses are going to play. I think overall Shadow Pan's probably just better on all fights in general, and you can easily get away with playing Shadow Pan on every single boss this tier and have no troubles at all. But I think that there are situations where you can just do more as Conduit, if the situation arises, right? Like, I think cooldowns are so important, 1 minute 30, 2 minutes. And what's cool is we have the flexibility to do that, right? You can play 1:30, you can play 2 minutes. They are different hero talents, but whichever one the boss kill timer lines up better with might be better for that fight if it's more single target and not like massive AoE fights, in which case Conduit sucks. So yeah, that's Fractillus. At the end, it's a weaker boss, guys. It's a stand on your marker when you have a marker above your head telling you to stand on a marker, press a defensive before every big circle mechanic, pop cooldowns on cooldown. There's not really much more I can milk from this boss in terms of yappage. Like, it just is what it is. Soul Hunt is an exciting one that we'll get to next, and that is actually a good one. Let me just have some more coffee. Right. Soul Hunters. Now, it's funny. On Prog, I actually played Conduit on this fight, but it is a Shadowpan fight. It's similar to Loom'ithar in the sense that there is more than one target. And what do we learn from Loom'ithar and Soulbinder and Araz and all these bosses that have more than one target up at different times in the fight? Crackling Jade Lightning is fucking broken. Have a look at our damage for this one. Crackling Jade Lightning, 8 casts, it pretty much does Fist of Fury damage, right? Flurry Strikes, hard carrying. Why? Because you're hitting pretty much 3 targets at all time with your Flurry Strikes. It is a very strong fight. Blackout Kick also does a lot of work here, more than Spinning Crane Kick, in fact, because you go the cleave build. It is just a Shadowpan fight for all those reasons. Just the damage profile's better, and 2-minute cooldowns are just so good for this fight. Like, it cannot be understated. 1 minute 30 is okay, but it doesn't line up as well as you might think it does. And Shadowpan just plays better throughout the entire fight based on boss positioning and stuff like that. Shadowboxing treads, must have. Jade Ignition, really good for this one because think of Mythic Plus, right? When you take Jade Ignition, you're doing Fist of Fury a lot, you're spinning Crane Kicking quite a lot because there's 3 targets, so it's like your, in quotation marks, main filler sort of thing. So you get a lot of value from Jade Ignition. And then reducing the cooldown, of Rising Sun Kick, more importantly, increasing the damage of Blackout Kick. Very useful. Lightning, we like that. Once again, Zuin's Battle Gear. It's a very common theme that even though this is a big AoE fight, getting the cooldown on Fist of Fury is just valuable. Shadowpan really likes that in the raid, and that's why you run this. Potentially Ordered Elements, but you actually drop Ordered Elements here, which is, I think, the first time that we do this, that I've shown, where you don't actually take Ordered Elements. And that's because you just don't need the chi reduction, really, on this fight. Whereas with Conduit, you really do need the chi reduction during Storm Earth Empire, super valuable. You have so much resources with Tiger Palm generation that you actually there's just no necessary need to take Ordered Elements. It's just more valuable to just take something like Jade Ignition instead on this tier of build. And then you can just see all these Blackout Kick talents, Lightning, super valuable. Back to 1 minute 30, Fortifying Brew. And other than that, I would, once again, as I said for every single boss this thing, I would have taken Ritual Forge over the Nether Prism every single time. Because if there is one boss in this raid where your damage on pull is super important, it is the 3-target cleave raid boss, right? Like, it's not a single target. There are 3 targets from the get-go, all stacked on top of each other. Popping cooldowns at the start of this boss without any trinket to buff that damage, it feels bad. And the fight is still 6 minutes, so it's valuable. But you'll actually see that my 6-minute cooldowns are actually really useless, because at this point, you kill them. You start to kill them so quick, and you will in the future once you have more gear and raid buffs, yada yada. That you essentially don't get much value out of your last cooldowns at 6 minutes because either 1 or 2 of the bosses are dead or died during the cooldowns, right? So just having as much damage as possible front-loaded at the start of the fight makes a lot more sense than having it back-loaded at the end of the fight, when the end of the fight, actually, you're not going to do as much damage because half the targets that you're trying to do damage to are just dead on, arrival. Antenna, once again, it's just, it is what it is. It is good trinket. Why is 1 minute 30 worse than Shadowpan? I asked because I have 1 minute 30 trinkets. It's a good question. It's not worse on all fights. We're coming up to some fights, the next 2 fights actually, where 1 minute 30 Shadowpans really useful. Nexus King and Dimensius, where you would play 1 minute 30 just because of how it lines up. But the benefit to 2 minute Shadowpan versus 1 minute 30 Shadowpan is that as long as the 2 minutes line up really well, by taking another talent in this tree here, even something as simple as like Rising Star, right? Or even something like Ordered Elements instead of Zuin's Bond, you actually just get more value on the overall, like than from having the extra cooldown. It really depends. Are you going to get more casts with 1 minute 30? A lot of these fights you don't, but it's surprisingly weaker to play 130 on some of these fights. What's a good example of this? Where did I play 130? The issue as well comes from the fact that generally the talent that you're switching out from is battle gear, right? When you're making the... Do I have Dimensius here as well? Because this isn't really a conduit issue. Because conduit, you always take battle gear. You just drop something. Because you've dropped all of the blackout kick talents, right? Why can I not find myself? Hello, where am I? There I am. See, even on Dimensius, it's because the trade to play 1 minute 30 Shadow Pan on a lot of these bosses is the Zuin's battle gear. It makes the most sense on what you trade out, just because of how these talent nodes work out, right? You're basically trading from this bottom section over here. So if you go 130, these talents over here are just too strong to not drop, if that makes sense. Like, Transfer the Power, just too strong. None of the Lightning. You're not dropping Whirl and Dragon Punch, Revolving Whirl. You're never dropping Invoker's Delight. Dual Threat, potentially, but it's actually stronger than you might think, with a constant, like, damage buff. And Fury of Zuin is also really strong, because you're just getting tons of value from it. So the trade-off tends to always be, do I run 130 with Zuin's Bond and drop Battle Gear, or 2 minutes and take Battle Gear? And Battle Gear it is really useful. Because when you do look at like damage overall and stuff like this, although like I keep yapping on about, you know, Crackling Jade Lightning and all this jazz, well, what Fist of Fury is still tons of your damage, right? Like even on the Soul Hunters fight, it's higher. Even on... Oh no, I played Conduit on that fight, I'm an idiot. Even on Soulbinder, right? Fist of Fury does a fair bit of damage. Probably not the best example. Where's Loom'ithar? That would be a good one. Fist of Fury, you know, it's still like in the top ones. Obviously, Crackling and Flurry Strikes are real good, but Fist of Fury is valuable, and that's because you are getting a lot of Rising Sun kicks off, because a lot of the time, these are predominantly single target bosses, right? Like there are ads that spawn, but because most of the time you're hitting this single target boss, you'll be doing Rising Sun kick a lot more actively, and getting more cooldown on Fist of Fury means more Fist of Fury casts. So dropping that for 1 minute 30 is the trade-off. And generally speaking, unless the fight has just perfect lineups 1 minute 30, having 2 minutes with an increased amount of Fist of Furies is just stronger. Even though you lose that, like, it doesn't sound like it's stronger because you've like, well, I've lost 30 seconds every single time I set my cooldowns, right? That doesn't sound very strong. It just is. like it's not the best answer ever, but it just is, because you're just getting more Fist of Furies out, you know? And Fist of Fury it is our main damage dealing ability that isn't, you know, they're not really cheese abilities, but the Crackling Jade Lightning's like, I guess you could say fundamental rotation abilities. Out of our fundamental rotation abilities, this one is just the strongest in almost all situations. Sometimes Blackout Kick can somehow take over, but you have to have like really good AoE situations for this. And sometimes Spinning Crane Kick, right, as you can see on Soulbinders, which is a big AoE fight. But Fist of Fury is always still up there, and that's because it's your big spender, right? Your big spender, your channeled ability that hits everything hard. The more that you can cast this, the more damage that you're going to do, and it actually makes up the deficit of having one less set of cooldowns in certain situations. It doesn't mean you can't play 1 minute 30 on these fights, right? I'm not saying don't play it. I'm just letting you know what the trade-off is. The trade-off is that you do drop Zuin's battle gear for it, and then essentially you will have less Fist of Fury damage. And when you're taking talents like, you know, Transfer the Power, you know, Fury of Zuin, all kind of operate with Fist of Fury, that's what you lose. So it's not just the talent itself, it's how it interacts with other talents, right? You know, the fact that it does more damage that stacks up. It grants you, you know, crit strike, haste, mastery, invoke, you know, Zuin the White Tiger for 10 seconds. This happens like, you know. So it's like a mix of a bunch of things. That doesn't mean you can't play 1 minute 30 on like single target bosses. It's just that 2 minutes is still in a situation where it does a ton of damage, it lines up nicely, and Zuin's battle gear is stronger than you might think. Good question. Good question. What are we on? Soul Hunters. There's no point showing you that. I mean, this means nothing. Doesn't mean anything to me. Soul Hunters is like a ranged fight, right? Melee on this fight, you know what your job is? It's to smack the boss and look pretty. Ranged, like, it's the meme of payphone, right? Ranged to sweating, playing out, they're completely different fights. Ranged to having to do all these crazy mechanics with sucking up, like, absorbs, making sure they pass the dispels to each other, doing all the hard work. Melees, you just have to dodge a mechanic every so often. That's it. Dodge a mechanic and stand inside of a hunt. Very easy melee fight. And I would argue that Windwalker is probably one of the best melee for this fight. Surprisingly, like, going into this tier, I thought Windwalker would suck on this fight. I think it is genuinely one of the strongest melees on this fight, and it's just because of Flurry Strikes and Crackle Jade Lightning. They're just so strong. They carry the encounter. So much so that, well, you see the damage at the end, right? Like, if I got my 6-minute cooldowns off and all the bosses were alive, probably top damage. Got a little bit zucked at the end, but you'll see as I go through the fight how the damage is just so high as Windwalker. So this is why I talk about wanting to be front-loaded for this fight with Araz Ritual Forge, is that you're hitting all 3 targets, right? All 3 targets. If you had a Araz Ritual Forge, suddenly you're doing so much more damage. You just go absolutely ham. I should have popped Touch of Karma and Pull here. I pop it a little bit late, but it's actually not the end of the world. It should still line up when I need it. And you're basically trying to keep up with your AOO stacks whilst doing big AoE damage with the haste buff from Lust. And you're going to send out both Storm Earth and Fires out here. And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout this fight, is that both Storm Earth and Fires always go out together on this fight. It'll make sense in a sec. Big thing to point out here when we start the fight, and a little tip that I learned. I died a lot to these lines. This boss, Dark Sorrow, he puts out green lines on the ground. You got to dodge them. You don't dodge them. They touch you. You get one shot. You're just on the floor. It is probably the only thing as a melee you can really die to, outside of double stacking in the hunt. I died too much to this. Whether it be from pressing Whirling Dragon Punch at the wrong time, being a greedy boy. Tons of reasons I shouldn't have. What did I learn from this? I learned that the moment Duskblaze dashes, get the fuck off these guys. Follow Duskblaze. You will never have to deal with the lines. And your tanks will pull these 2 bosses into Duskblaze within like 3 or 4 seconds. You'll see how fast they get pulled into it, and you avoid this mechanic every single time, except for like 1 or 2 when intermissions are about to come up. It's safer. You lose essentially no damage, right? No damage, because you'd be having to dodge these lines anyway. You just follow him, no mechanics on you. You safe and sound, and the bosses get brought to you. On top of this, there are defensives for this fight, and similar to Fractillus, where you popped a defensive every single circle, like after every break, you pop before every single, what's it called? Soul? Oh my god, what's the mechanic called? Demon Hunter. Soul Bomb? No, that's not it. Something Bomb. Every time they cast the bomb mechanic, Spirit Bomb. Yes, Spirit Bomb, thank you. Every time they're about to cast Spirit Bomb, that's when you defensive. And you kind of rotate your defensives in between the Spirit Bombs. It just hits like a truck. And it kind of overlaps other mechanics that do damage. You don't need a defensive for the hunt. Don't get like debated by this. I know it looks like a big damage. It doesn't do any damage unless you double stack. If you double stack, you're dead anyway. Defensive ain't saving you. If you aren't double stacked, you'll be fine. As long as there are enough people in the soak, I suppose, right? But like, you just got to trust that there are enough players in the soak to not let you die. So that's the big one from that. And you'll hear a countdown at all times. I set this up myself because even though I have a notification, just hearing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before every Spirit Bomb, I knew press defensive, be okay. Don't have a defensive, finger over the, health pot, health stone sort of thing. So even though my Storm Earth and Fire is rolling, I'm out of there. And what do I know? Oh, the bosses are here. I dodged the Blade Dance. I'm fine. And sometimes the Blade Dances are a little bit trickier. That one was a pretty fast-paced one, but sometimes the bosses come a little bit slower. I just don't risk it. It's not worth it. So, oh, cool. I got the hunt on this POV. So I only watched back a few bosses before I did this stream thing. So I'm watching this first time as well as you. Well, I guess I played it. I lived it. But so I get the hunt. Good example for the hunt. If you are targeted by this and you're a melee, give as much room as possible. What's that? I pop no defensive. Put it to half health. I'm fine. I trust it. It's just give as much room as possible for the players to get inside of it. And then we might have missed it, but I come back in. I instantly Crackling Jade Lightning. Really important to note here. Even if you have to hold a 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning for 5-6 seconds, I always do it because the value from hitting all 3 compared to just 2 is bigger than you'll think. So even if I get a 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning and I'm following Dark Sorrow, I will wait for the other 2 to get back in before I send it, because I want to guarantee I hit all 3. Never stand in front of the boss. You will get eye beamed. Trust me, it hurts. Once again, where's he going? I'm fucking gone. I'm not dealing with that mechanic. I know it's carnage. It's not worth my time. The bosses are already on top of me by the time that I start popping anything. It's just, I think it's safer. In terms of damage, you will deal a bit less damage in the fight, but you don't deal damage if you're dead. So we get a hunt here. I was very concerned here that I was double stacking with people, and there are about like 7 people in that soak. So sometimes it is actually safer to move out a soak than it is. It sounds like you're dodging a mechanic, right? In a way, and technically you are, but there are a lot of times where you overlap like hunts and stuff like this, and you will just kill each other because all melee are kind of stacked on top of each other, and this does happen. So that was like a prime example of that. So, good example of Blade Dance. So this is one of the situations where you see that I always run out, right? Because Dustblaze hasn't done a mechanic now. It doesn't because we're about to go into the intermission. Look how fucking terrifying this is. You've got like 10 lines and a massive cone on top of myself. This is what you'd be dealing with every single set event. Like, basically. It's just not worth it. It's why I always move out so fast, because this is just panic-inducing. And I'm just like, I'm out. I'm just like, get me out of there. So I try to avoid that every time that I can. And you can see I'm not sending another Storm, Earth, and Fire. I do send one more Crackling Jade Lightning just before the intermission, because I want to get as much value from it as possible whilst they're all grouped together. And now it's time to play Chill with my homies. I do pop 1 defensive during this intermission, and it's only Fort Brew. Essentially with these orbs, you want to take 2 per person. 2, and then you wait, let other people take them. So I take 1 here, and I think I take 1 in time again, and I pop Fort Brew before it, but then I don't take any more. Because if you start taking more, you start taking a bit of damage. In fact, I think I actually do. No, I was going to say I take 3 here, but I think that was on the pool before when we wiped it. Like, when you take 3, you'll see yourself dying. So, the bosses are coming down, and what do you notice? The bosses don't actually come down at 2 minutes. Delay your cooldowns for 20 seconds. And then every single time the intermission finishes after this point, it will always be 2 minutes. Like, this is a very scripted fight in terms of mechanics and intermissions and stuff. At 2 minutes 20, 4 minutes 20, 6 minutes 20, these ads will come down. That's just how the fight plays out. So by delaying it, you send your cooldowns out when there's a 3 stack. 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning. My Nether Prism, I suppose, gained a bit more stacks. Maybe. And I've got double Storm, Earth, and Fire. And there's nothing going on. So this is the best time to send out your cooldowns and stuff. Because they're all stacked, you get double Storm, Earth, and Fire value, you just do insane damage. It is the best time, and all it cost you was an extra 20 seconds of holding. See, I stayed in for a second, I didn't follow the boss. Did I get punished? I absolutely got punished, because then I had to sit out. I should have just followed Dustblaze instantly. I didn't trust my own advice. Bad monk. So some were essentially doing the same thing again. You can see tons of melee stacked here, and I decide I'm moving out because we were kind of overlapping again. Like, trust me when I say, the amount of times, like, it's so easy to not see someone that you stood on top of, especially in melee, and we were running a lot of melee. So half the soaks I do stand in, but anytime I thought to myself, I think there's another player that I'm stood on top of or slightly over, I just move out because it's not death damage. Like, usually I try to stay in, but I died the other week from doing that exact same thing. I thought I was safe in a position. I was stood pixel perfect on top of the Mistweaver. We both just got 1 shot because I just couldn't see him because our circles were literally overlapping. Once again, I just go over to the boss, avoid all the mechanics. Did I send out a lightning there? I did. I actually sent out an 18 stack lightning there a little bit early. Probably should have delayed that for when they all came over, but not end of the world. And then once again, it's just the same thing. You know, we're popping defenses on every Spirit Bomb. But other than that, it's just making sure, like, the range to playing this entire fight for us, right? So look, another soak in. I know that I'm perfectly safe here. So then I stand in the position because I know that no one else was near me. Good, easy save. It's just, if you're ever, like, really skeptical about it, like, sometimes I'm just like, I think I'm on top of someone. I don't want to kill us both. Otherwise, it's probably a wipe on this fight. You can move out. You know, it sounds like bad advice, but it's I don't think it is. Unless, like, you moving out causes everybody to die, then yes, it's your fault. But if you were potentially killing someone by you both not moving out, then it's good. Either way, intermission 2. This is when I should have defensives. I shouldn't have popped Fort Brew there. Because you can see I have a Fort Brew timer here. I shouldn't have popped it early. This is the one time when you want Diffuse Magic and Fort Brew. This is probably the scariest intermission in terms of actually taking damage. The rule of thumb that we played by was you only pop a defensive if you have 2 lines on top of you. 1 line, take the hit. Be a champ, take the hit, you're not going to die. 2 lines on top of you, pop a defensive, take both hits, don't do stupid movements, kill someone, right? And that's how you play it. So the most important one here is Diffuse Magic, because that's going to like save me the most from a double dash. See, 1 here, I don't pop anything. It's just 1, half health, fine. Got hit by 2, insta-dead. So 2 here, but I see I can move out in position, so I do pop Diffuse there. But that's because I think I probably popped it just as there were 2, but I probably didn't have to. I probably could have survived it and moved forward and be fine. And then, once again, what's that? 4 minute 30-ish, roughly. Pop all my cooldowns, everything stacked together. Big Crackling Jade Lightning, all cooldowns come out. And it kind of lines up really nicely. Dodge the I-Beam, don't be stupid like me. And the fight essentially plays out like this again. I probably follow the boss here because I'm terrified. Yeah, a little bit late, but we did it. We did all right. And it's basically just trying to get the most value out of these double Stormwrath fires. But the reason, like, you don't want to be, like, Stormwrath firing willy-nilly, and it just makes more sense to play this fight as a Zuin double Stormwrath fire, is at the start of each set, it's really chill. Like, genuinely really chill. There's, like, maybe 1 I-Beam going out, maybe 1 dash and some hunts, but outside of that, it makes sense. And there's no point sending out a Stormwrath fire during the intermissions, right? During the intermissions, predominantly it's 1 target. Even if you can crack the Jade Lightning the adds in the air, that's the only ability hitting them. It just makes no sense to do that. So this is where, when I was talking about earlier, where my 6 minutes kind of fall off a little bit. And that's because you can see how low all these adds are. We're at 5 minutes. This is a 7 minute 30 fight. Half of these bosses are dead. you know what I mean? So we'll... At this point... Okay, we get 1 more soak. I'll watch this. So you see the soak again. I move forward. My tank says, watch out. There's going to be an I-Beam. I panic a little bit, but I don't move. I accept my fate. I move slightly. The slightest tweak, and I survive it. The worst thing I could have done there was move left, right? So at least, like, because he called it out, I knew, right, moving left is not an option. So I do move into the soak a little bit, just to guarantee I don't hit it, because it's wider than it looks. But I did almost die for it. I probably could have just stood still, but it's just safer than sorry. But you can see how close these bosses are pretty much dead, and that's what I mean. These fights are going to be so quick, eventually. But it's always going to be a Shadowpan fight. Even if you don't get your 6 minute cooldowns off, it's just not... Conduit just doesn't play the fight well enough for this sort of damage. So, you know, 1 more lightning at 16 stacks, because I know that at this point, when the bosses come down, I'm not going to do anything anyway. They're pretty much all dead. And this is just a get behind the boss thing. So we actually kill him mid-intermission, and then I think the bosses come down early. And then, look, this guy's dead before I even touch it. And then that's the fight, right? So I don't even get my cooldowns off. So you could ask the question of, would it make sense to actually pop your cooldowns at 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes? I think no, because if you pop them at 2 minutes and 4 minutes, you're popping them during the intermission, which means you're only hitting 1 target anyway for the majority of the damage. I still think it's better to get off 2 cooldowns and lose the 1 on 3 targets compared to 3 sets of cooldowns on 1 target. And then even then in the 3rd intermission, you're not hitting that boss half the time. Half the time you're running like an absolute lunatic to avoid its mechanics. This was my least favorite. Was it? I enjoy this fight a lot more now we finish prog. I hated it on prog because I kept making the mistake of staying too close to the big boss and dying to the lines and stuff. Once my small brain could compute that I just had to move out and drop like 2 seconds of damage to 3 targets, it became a lot more fun. Optimizing the cooldowns as well for the 2 minute 20, 3 minute 30, 6 minutes, whatever. Also, really useful. And you can see really high damage. So you can see, like, if the boss stayed along, like, let's say the boss stayed alive till 7 minutes, and you get that final set of cooldowns with, like, an Araz Ritual Forge or something, you just jump straight back up. Not quite 10 million Warlock damage, but you'd be definitely doing, like, 9 million. It's a really strong Windwalker fight. And that's why I genuinely think it's, like, probably the best melee spec for it. There might be some good specs as well, but I think Windwalker really holds up on this fight surprisingly well. I don't really like the overload of visuals. Yeah, there is a lot going on. It is a very chaotic fight. I've never been a fan of council fights in general, to be honest. I think they're a cool concept, but I think when you have 3 different bosses casting 3 or 4 different abilities at like one time, and there's like so much going on, it just feels like a clusterfuck. You start panicking because there's so many things going on at once. It's like a mess of stuff on your screen. Like once you're used to it a bit, like I'm used to this fight now, so it's whatever. But on prog, like starting this thing, like I feel like as a ranged, maybe although the fight's infinitely harder for them, I feel like being further away and seeing everything from a distance must feel a lot better than being on top of a blade dance, a shadow cone, spirit bomb circles, pools on the floor everywhere, and it's just like, where do I stand? Where do I stand right now for this particular situation? You know. But yeah, good Windwalker fight. Surprisingly good Windwalker fight. They should have taken one of these to the race to war first. It would have slapped. Funnily enough, I think. Is there a Jade Lightning you did without 20 stacks? Yeah, on this fight I did do one at 18. It was actually a mistake. I probably should have saved it till 20. But in general, a lot of the time I do send Lightning out before 20 if the fight suits it. Soulbinder that I covered like maybe an hour ago, great example of this. I sent out loads of like 14, 15 stacks of Lightning just to guarantee that I got Lightning off on every ad set, as opposed to missing out on ad sets to get that extra like 5 stacks, which overall loses you damage, because I'd rather have 2 15 stack of Lightnings than 120, if that makes sense. So if the situation calls for it, yeah. Predominantly for Soul Hunters, you don't have to. Like, you should be able to get 20 Lightning off every time, just because of how the fight plays out. But in M+, I send out Lightnings before 20 all the time if it's right for the situation. Stuff like that. We started progressing this boss, this ID, and it's hell of a game changer following the Dust Dude early. It honestly is. I wish I realized it sooner in our prog. I think it's more the fact that like the one boss has more health than the others. So suddenly you tunnel vision a bit on that guy and you're like, right, I need to stay on this guy as a melee and get him down. But my brain couldn't compute. Follow the dust guy, hit him for 2 globals, and by the time you finish those 2 globals, the big guy's back over by you and you just, tab target back to him. But no, if there was like one tip for this boss, it would generally just be follow him when he dashes, because realistically, you're actually only missing out on 1 extra target, because it's either the choice of hitting 1 target or 2 targets as they dash over. I would take that option every day of the week. So overall, good fight, very chaotic. One of those fights that even if the time decreases, this will always be a Shadow Pan fight. I don't see Conduit ever being better. At this point, the closer you are to 6 minutes or below 6 minutes, your damage falls off quite dramatically because you're relying on the double Storm Earth and Fire windows. If I realized that we were going to kill it so soon, I would have sent out an extra Storm Earth and Fire, maybe even 2 prior to this. But then the closest you get to a 4-minute kill, which sounds ridiculous for this sort of fight, 4 minutes is nothing, but the closer you get to 4 minutes, or just past 4 minutes, like 4:30, 4:40, it becomes a really stronger Shadow Pan fight, just based on cooldowns and stuff. And it'll eventually get to like a 5-minute fight, right? And a 5-minute fight, you are doing so much damage to this boss. Like, it perfectly lines up. So right now, I'd say for most guilds, it's like a 6:30 to 7:30-ish sort of fight. So good for Shadow Pan. So good for Shadow Pan. My guild found out to follow Dusk really early on. I'm sure players in my guild work that out as well. Not me. I don't have that brain capacity. Me melee, me smack, like melee brain activate. 2 targets, 1 target. Come on. Come on. Why is Monk always dead? And I can't blame Whirling Dragon Punch and everything. Alright, alright. So somehow we've covered 6 bosses. We're now getting to the big 2. The very big 2. Nexus King and your boy Dimensius. Oh boy, there are going to be some long yaps. Let me just grab a glass of water, because I've run out of coffee, and then we'll go on to those 2, alright? Let me scroll over to them real quickly. I need to work out which kill was the Nexus King kill, by the way. Hold on. I'll do that first whilst I'm here. So there were two versions of... I'll preamble first. There were two versions of this kill that I could have shown you. I'm choosing to show you the Shadowpan one. Predominantly just because I think it's better. Actually, no, they were both Shadowpan kills. What am I on about? I'm choosing to show you the 1 minute 30 version. Rather than the 2 minute one, because the 1 minute 30 version is the one I think you should play. Like 2 minutes worked for our stage and prog and what my job was on this boss at that time. But overall for this boss, 1 minute 30 just makes more sense for how things time out and stuff like that. Like 2 minutes is good, but you don't need it anymore. They nerfed this boss, you're only going to get stronger. You don't need to do extra dragon damage to kill this boss, realistically. So I'd recommend 1 minute 30 every single time. Even if you play Conduit. Conduit is definitely viable on this boss as well. I played it a bit during prog, but I found the 1 minute 30 overlap very awkward. And I felt like I did 0 damage during it. However, there is a cheat code to completely win on this boss, and it requires having a paladin that likes you. Let me grab water, and then I'll go into further details on getting a paladin to like you. Hello. Me smack. Yeah, exactly. Me smack, me melee. I was going to say lightning goes burr on the ads. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the reasons I went for Shadowpan in the end. Although Conduit also does good in the ads, and Conduit's stronger on the amp-ish. It depends. Right, so this is a little bit different from all of the other bosses, because things change. Turn that music off right now. We're getting serious in here. Nexus King, Salad Man. Okay. So, this is the one of two fights where I actually run 1 minute 30 Shadowpan, and I think it's better. And the reason for this, it all comes down to cooldown timings, right? And the same for Conduit, but you play that 1 minute 30 anyway, right? So this fight, should I go on WoW for this? Show the timeline reminders. I think it's probably worthwhile. Yeah, it is. For these last two bosses, I'm going to get timeline reminders up. I'm actually going to log into the game. Because trying to explain this preamble stuff, it makes sense for me to visually show you the timeline of this fight and how it actually works. Where the other bosses before this didn't really need it. This one does. These last two bosses, you like yaps. This is you proc a 30-minute proc from me here. Yeah. So the Shadowpan versus Conduit debate. It depends what you're really looking for in the prog of it. So like, let's talk about prog kills, right? Not like, we're not talking about like padding or getting the best pass and stuff like that. For pure prog, it really depends what you need. If your guild is really struggling on the platforms, and potentially you're struggling on the platforms, right? But let's say you're struggling on overall damage and not just the Plexus little mob thing. If you're struggling like overall damage, reaps are getting too much for your healer to handle, then Shadowpan's probably better because you can do so much damage AoE to the ads on the platform, right? Like Shadowpan's just stronger. Lightning's really good. Flurry Strike's hitting all of these ads. If you want more targeted damage, where you're like super nuking down this the big ad, that's where you're struggling on the platform. Conduit better because it just will do that job better. In terms of the amp, if you're fine on the platforms don't matter for whatever reason, and amp is really what you care about for your guild. You're struggling with that amp. Conduit is going to do more damage in the amp if you have like a fully stacked nether prism or whatever. It just will. Its burst is just higher. It's like a 25-minute amp window, right? It's just so strong. That's not to say Shadowpan's not strong in the amp. Shadowpan's surprisingly strong in the amp. It's a lot stronger than Dimensius' amp, and I think it's due to the time. It's the fact that this amp is, what is it, it's 25 seconds? Yeah, 30 seconds. It's like a 30-second amp, right, more or less. It is a really long time to have a damage amp. The extent is you get to use your full cooldown window during this. Dimensius, you don't. Dimensius' amp is weenie, and it sucks, and it needs to be longer. That's getting ahead of ourselves. So, timeline's important for this for a multitude of reasons, in the fact that you're looking to get your cooldowns on this platform, and you're looking to get your cooldowns during the damage amp. These are the two most important points in the fight where you need cooldowns. By playing 1 minute 30, you manage to do this, right? You pop on pull, because damage to the boss is also important, but you know, it's actually more important to do damage to the dragon. Obviously, the boss needs to take damage here, but this is actually probably the weakest part of the fight for Windwalker. A lot of melee in general, a lot of characters in general. There's so much movement, so much things you actually have to do to get around avoid mechanics, stuff like that. This is hell on earth. So the reason you have to pop here at 1 minute 30 is because you need it back up during the ads, right? So delaying it's not really an option. The biggest issue with popping at 1 minute 30 on this fight is the subjugation rule combination. It lines up exactly with your 1 minute 30 cooldowns. When I tell you this feels like the worst set of cooldowns I've ever sent in my entire life on any prog boss. It is. Because during a set of cooldowns, when you want to be hitting the boss and getting your rotation right and doing everything perfectly, you have to dodge lasers flying through the sky. You have to make sure you're soaking on a tank who might not be near the boss at the time, but you have to get in, otherwise you're dead, and, you know, GG, go again. So, regardless of how bad this overlap is, you have to send at 130, otherwise you're screwing yourself on the platforms, and then you're screwing yourself in the amp, because by delaying it here, you're delaying it here, you're delaying it here, you get less damage overall, right? So 130 send is really important, just like sending at about 3 minutes is super important on the platforms, because you have to send at 3 minutes to then get your cooldowns back up at 430, which isn't even the start of the amp, by the way, but you still get the full window of cooldowns. So, in my opinion, this is the worst set of cooldowns. Sometimes it's not too bad. If you get the soak circle first, like, because you can even get the soak circle first or third with how people play this boss. If you get it first, it's actually more beneficial because you move out quickly, the boss jumps towards you, and then you get a good amount of cooldowns. If you get it third, you get to hit the boss a bit earlier on, but then you have to move off the boss during like a big portion of it, and you've got all the lasers coming through at that point. It's horrible, but you have to deal with it. So there's this thing called Blessing of Autumn that paladins can give you, and I'm not saying you need Blessing of Autumn to kill this boss. You don't. I didn't get Blessing of Autumn. I killed the boss, right? It's possible. Blessing of Autumn reduces Zuen's cooldown by about 10 seconds. It's like 30% or something for a period of time. Essentially, you get to pop your cooldowns at 1 minute 20. The big benefit to doing this and convincing your paladin is that by being able to pop your cooldowns at 1 minute 20, you, for the most part, you avoid this entire, like, popping your cooldowns during this horrible overlap. So you get a really nice cooldown set here. At least like 10 seconds are free. If you get the soak third as well, essentially the entirety of this, you get 3 cooldowns or whatever, and you get a really nice send out. Not only this, but it means that your burst win on the platforms are moved up 10 seconds earlier, which is roughly when you land, like more or less. It's about here rather than here. So suddenly you spawn, you land on the platform, send out all your cooldowns, happy days. It's perfectly fine to send them out at 3 minutes, but, you know, it's halfway through the platform, and you don't have to send out a extra Storm, Earth, and Fire here. I just thought this was better to do the double, otherwise you're holding Storm, Earth, and Fires for, like, really long periods of time, which can be useful if you're saving for the damage amp, but this was a re-kill, so I didn't. Or this was our second takedown. And then, as well as that, by getting that one Blessing of Autumn, you get to send out your cooldowns immediately on the damage amp, which then in turn means you get them a little bit earlier here, but you'd actually delay them anyway here because of how the mechanics work out and stuff like that. So the TLDR of it is, although you don't need it, by getting a Paladin to give you Blessing of Autumn and being able to send out cooldowns literally just 10 seconds earlier, that's it for the entirety of the fight. Like, one Blessing of Autumn is all you need. It kind of changes how horrible the P1 set of cooldowns are, and it makes every set of cooldowns after that for the two important parts of the fight, the platform and the damage amp, just so much smoother, right? You can see how I've offset cooldowns here, right? I have to Storm, Earth, and Fire, then Zuin like midway through this, and then pop Storm, Earth, and Fire again halfway through my Zuin, or a little bit after my Zuin, I guess. It's just really awkward. Obviously, there are probably better targets for Blessing of Autumn. Potentially, you don't own a Paladin. That these things happen. Like, it's not that you have to have it, but if you look at if you do look at like top Windwalker logs on this fight, or when I looked at them anyway, like a week or so ago, and you might be like, how is this guy popping cooldowns at 1 minute 20? That's not possible. That's impossible. Windwalker can't do that. Is he cheating? Is he hacking? It's because they get Blessing of Autumn, and it's for the sole reason that I guarantee it just makes every single lineup where you want cooldowns to be better. So if you can, do it. If you can't, it's not impossible. But once we get to 1 minute 30 in the fight, you will understand what I mean when I say this is hell on earth to pop cooldowns, but you have to pop them here, otherwise you've fucked yourself for the rest of the fight. It just is what it is. And it's the same for Conduit, right? Let's say you want to play Conduit, 1 minute 30, it works the exact same way, right? You get your cooldowns earlier, you know, so on and so forth. Bob's your uncle, that sort of jazz. So that's why I wanted to bring up the timeline here. As well as this, with the timeline, you can see there's no defensive set for the start, except for here and here. That doesn't mean I don't press defensives during this fight. Defensives for P1 Nexus King are, in my opinion, reactive defensives, where you only pop them if you get banishment. Your healers should be able to keep you alive through Behead, and they should be able to keep you alive through the Subjugation rule. If you go into one of these with like half health or something, then yes, probably pop a defensive, or, you know, use a health pot or something like that. But realistically, you can get away with just popping on banishment. That's the big one that will catch your healers out and stuff, because it does a massive tick before these mechanics come in, and you can just get popped by this. Our defense is really good for banishment. In fact, I actually preferred getting banishment than getting Behead during this fight, because I just knew, oh, pop Diffuse Magic, I'm absolutely fine. Pop Fortifying Brew, I'm fine, and you don't get this mechanic. You can't get both of these mechanics at the same time. So, another useful thing with this fight. And then you can see, like, defenses get more structured at the end of the fight, because eventually it's just a pop defensive when the Galactic Smash comes in, if you're targeted with it. If you're not, then pop it if you get this mechanic over here, or when it's necessary. But you have to make sure you have a defensive lined up for every Galactic Smash on the off chance you get it. You don't have a defensive for Galactic Smash, you're dead. It's just is what it is. You will just get one shot. Your guild won't wipe, because your circle will still get placed and the orb will spawn, but you will perish. And then you also want defenses for the amp, because it just hurts. It really hurts. And then I guess I had defensives here, like Fort Bruise assigned here, but I also did pop Karma and Diffuse Magic during this period, because a lot of damage comes out during this. I was on the 1 healer platform. I've heard that guilds are now doing 4 healers, so that's not always the case. You probably can use less defensives on the platforms now. But once again, platforms were reactive defensives. If I got the Reap, not the Reap, if I got the dash ability, what was it called? Not Nether Blast. Maybe, I don't think it's here. It probably was Reap. Something along those lines. I think it was Reap. Then I'd pop a defensive for every Reap, because it's just so much damage. If you can defensive it, your healer can actually keep you alive. If you can't defensive it, you're probably dead. So that's why, like, the timeline reminders and stuff look very barren, but it's all reactive until realistically you get to the amp point, and then you can pretty much have assigned defenses for each of these things. And if you did end up getting Star Killer Swing, you have to have a defensive for this. But there is a way that you don't get Star Killer Swing. You can... These are baited. I don't know how many people actually know that, but you don't have to get this if you don't want it. So we actually had assigned players to take the Starkiller swings. The tankier classes or the classes that had more defensives at all times. And there's a way to avoid getting these two if either you're super unconfident in actually doing it, or you don't have a defensive up to actually take it. So both options, right? So let's say you've never taken this in your life and you just RNG'd never taken this in your life and you're on a kill that's potentially kill pull and you're like, fuck this, I don't want to take this, I don't want my guild. Or you have no defensive, there is a way to just not get this mechanic. You can have someone else take it, and it's all to do with positioning. So that's worth knowing. Because you'll see when we get to P3, I never take one of these, because at this point, I think I'd had one during the entirety of Prog. And at this point, I was just like, well, I've never really taken this. Like, I understood what to do and how to position myself, but I was like, do I want to be the person that wipes this because I've never taken it when we've assigned players who know how to do this? Probably not, no, right? So if it looks like I'm dodging mechanics, which I am, I am dodging these mechanics because there were better players who had more practice on it to guarantee that they didn't fuck it up, whereas I knew that there was a 50% chance I would just mess it up because I just hadn't done it as much. So yeah, that's the TLDR for the timeline reminders that I thought was worth going over. Shadowpan. I took Shadowboxing Treads here. Potentially you don't take this. A good reason to take Shadowboxing Treads is it's good for the platforms, and it's actually good for when the boss is riding the other boss. Gasm. Oh, like, that's not for a very long period of time. It's maybe for like a minute in total of you actually hitting the boss that you will get value from this, but you'll hit 2 targets at once, so a bit more blackout kick damage. But mostly it's for the platforms. Probably don't have to take this. Probably better talent to take generally overall. 1 minute 30 fortifying brew. Nothing too special here. And it'd be similar to Shadowpan would be similar. The big difference, right, between Shadowpan and Conduit for this fight is I think on the last 2 bosses in this raid, Conduit is so scary to play. I said this a lot during M+ streams and stuff, but at no point before the last 2 bosses, or last tier even, have I ever been the sort of person that said, I don't like slicing winds because I think I don't like the movement displacement. I don't think there's any situation where I've thought to myself, movement displacement? Like, this never feels too bad to actually press. Until these last 2 bosses, and I think it's the fact that they made it so that with slicing winds, it now gives you the buff, right? It gives you the Heart of the Jade Serpent. So you have to be pressing this essentially on cooldown to get value to make sure Conduit's doing damage. It's super vital you do this. In Season 2, not so much, right? Not too bad. On bosses like things like Plexus Sentinel, you know, Fractillus, Loom'ithar, whatever, these sort of bosses, there's no real point where pressing a Slicing Winds is risky. You can pretty much press it on cooldown and no extra thought has to be put into it. There's so much thought that has to be put into pressing a Slicing Winds on this boss. A Dimensius as well, coming up. So much thought has to be put into, can I press it at this moment? Is pressing it at this moment going to pull me out mechanic, put me in harm's way of another mechanic? Do I have to hold this for a delayed period of time to actually get value? Because sometimes you press Strike of the Windlord, Slicing Winds, but you'd have to move. And because you'd have to move to get to another position or dodge a laser and stuff, you lose uptime, so you've lost your burst window. How long can I hold my burst window before I've held it for too long that am I just going to get more value playing Shadowpan because I can actually do damage without screwing up this combo? And like, I play a lot of Windwalker, right? But even I dropped Conduit because I was just like, I can't. I'm not getting the uptime that I want on this. Every time that I do it, it's like a 50-50 odd risk that something is going to go terribly wrong. Or I'm having to hold these cooldowns for such a long period of time that I might as well just play Shadowpan, safer hero talent, it's going to do more or less the same damage, just play through the fight, you know? And that's why for the last 2 bosses I did play Shadowpan. You'll hear me talk about it a lot in Dimensius as well. It's risky. And it genuinely, I think it ties into the fact that you have to play Slicing Winds. If it was Season 2 and Slicing Winds had no impact on the tier set, I just press it when I felt safe to do so, right? Like, do some damage. But you feel forced to have to press it with Strike of the Windlord and not lose uptime during that period of time, but not delay it too long that you're losing out casts on it. Otherwise, you're actually doing no damage anyway, because that's where your damage comes from, right? See what I mean? Whereas Shadowpan, your damage comes from, like, just doing the rotation and Storm, Earth, and Fire windows. And they're a lot easier to work around, Storm, Earth, and Fire windows, than a 20-second window, if that makes sense. Do I still run Shadowpan Slicing Winds and Dungeons? I did actually the other day in a +12 because I'm trying to get the trinket at the moment from Halls of Atonement. And it performed pretty well in that dungeon. I think it performs really well in high mob density dungeons. Halls of Atonement, it was just really good. It felt so nice. But I think like some dungeons that have lower mob count, maybe something like Streets, right? Streets has not as much trash throughout and a lot of single target bosses. Probably doesn't play as well. So I think it is quite dungeon specific. Maybe Gambit would be good. I mean, I guess there are a lot of Murlocs, but after that, it's pretty small, right? All right. So he's yapped. He's done the preamble yap. Let's watch this fight then. One fight. Oh yeah, I didn't talk about trinkets, but quickly, I would run Nether Prism here for both Conduit and Shadowpan. The big reason for this is that although Araz Ritual Forge is good, being able to Nether Prism. This is such a long fight, right? This is like a 7-minute fight, regardless of even faster kill times and stuff like that. And having good damage amps. Nether Prism is really strong. Like, Araz is good on the pull for Shadowpan, but Nether Prism gets so many actual uses of it throughout the fight that it just becomes better due to its long duration and the fact that it's a constant agility buff for the entire time. Same with Conduit, right? You'll do weaker on pull, but you'll do a really strong damage amp. Real strong platforms, stuff like that. So I actually think Nether Prism is the trinket for this one. Antenna's okay as well in this fight. The issue is there's so much movement that Antenna, you don't always get all your orbs. It is a little bit annoying, but the alternative is like a pacemaker, and I just didn't have a good one, so it's what it is.
5, 4, 3, 2.
So on pull, I do pop Karma here, and it's because the only other time I want to pop Karma realistically is during that subjugation rule, the tank combo situation that we talked about, the final one in the phase, because it is actually really terrifying to do. So I always hated getting Conquer third. I feel like it's awkward. You can see why, right? Everybody's moving. I'm being a little bit greedy here. But a lot of the time, like, you can't really be that greedy. Like, a lot of the time you do have to move off of it. We got lucky lines there, so I could be a little bit greedy and hit the boss. But sometimes you just have to move out, and you've got downtime on the boss for upwards of, like, 5-6 seconds. Get this mechanic. The idea is not to move. I actually had a countdown here a lot of the time that used to tell me not to roll. Because although you can roll to get yourself out of the way with the claws, a lot of the times it would, like, catch players out. Like, if you rolled in a direction, like, someone would be like, oh shit, this guy's fucking rolled on me, and start, like, panicking or whatnot. Personally, I think it's okay if you roll into an area that's not bad, but it's generally just safer to stand still. It's also worth mentioning, I will go back, that we are going to talk about a lot of stuff here. It's worth mentioning that I Soothing Mist as my defensive for every single mechanic that comes out in P1. So I should do it here as well. If we go back to the soak, you can see I press Soothing Mist, bottom of the screen here. This is because we said no defensives during these mechanics, right? Like, you need defensives for the banishment, because you can get like 3 to banish. You could potentially get 3 banishments in P1. Very unlikely, possible. If it happens, no defensive. Good luck, bozo. The externals are for tanks at this point, because they have to solo soak, and it hits like a truck. So I ran Soothing Mist, and it's the one time in this raid when I actually ran Soothing Mist and Elusive Mists. I didn't really use it for Elusive Mists, which is the Vivify. I used it mostly just for the 6% DR. It's not much, but it helped sometimes with this, just to take a little bit less damage, because these things hit like a truck. And the moment it came in, I just hit it just before, and then I'd move out again. And I think I got a lot of value from this just for staying alive. It did help a lot. So yeah, back into the fight. I only sent 1 Storm and Fire here. I'm holding the second Storm and Fire. I'm going to send it out when I'm about 20 stacks of Lightning in a sec. No, am I? No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. I forget what I decided on in the end, I'll be honest. Ghosts. Fucking hate them. Worst thing ever made. No, I don't send it out. I basically... Okay. So sometimes I did send it out, sometimes I didn't. I was trying to remember what I decided on in the end. It's because I'm doing the double on the platform. So you're going to see Storm and Fire stack up twice here for a while until we get to 1 minute 30. It's just so that I could allow myself the double on the platform. That's why. Sometimes when I was saving 2 for the damage amp, I'd send my second Storm and Fire out here. Because it's a safe period in the fight, in quotation marks, 20 stack lightning, and then I'll have 2 Stormwrath and Fires back up for the damage out without much loss on time. So because I switched out and sent 2 on the platform, I didn't send it out here, and I just took the L. So I loved Conkers straight off the bat because it meant that... So, one, it means that, look, he jumps straight into you, and then you can get good uptime as a melee. Conkers on the third always suck. You can't decide, it is what it is, but I love them on this one because it meant I could actually hit the boss without having to be a melon. And you can see once again, this hits everybody like an absolute truck. We have a Spirit Link here. I have 6% DR on myself. Like, these are terrifying, but no defenses popped. Because we learned that as long as your healer has the right cooldown for this, no one should die. Right? Like, and that's why I just Soothing Mist here, because at least it's something to help protect myself. Because sometimes you do just die there. Maybe someone's outside the Spirit Link or something, just slightly. So just that extra health just made a big difference, and it was just the one thing I could always send on that without having to lose too much. So it's just dodging lines and stuff. Watching this back, it looks so easy. Yeah, it's not. Cool, I did get the big dot. So you can see I got the big dot on me. 6 seconds. I could have cast Diffuse, or I could have cast Fortifying. I choose to cast Fortifying first here, and it's for the reason that I want it on the platforms as soon as possible, because you can still get another dot coming up after this. I'm pretty sure anyway. I think there's another dot that can come out at one point, maybe not. Either way, I always Fortifying first between these two, because even if I didn't get another one, I usually press Diffuse Magic when he does the final smash, along with a Touch of Karma. Just because the last smash always seemed to be the most dangerous. It didn't really make sense why, because we had healing cooldowns there, but it always just hit the hardest. Even with like a Soothing Mist or something, I had these 2 defenses potentially, sometimes even 1. I always had the Karma because I allowed myself to have the Karma, but I knew that by popping them both there, I'd always have them up for the platform when I wanted them anyway. So it made sense to pop Diffuse and Karma there when possible, just Karma if I didn't have Diffuse. Always Fortifying Brew first when I got the Banishment, because I'd always have it on the platform by the time the last Banishment came out in the fight. So yeah, then you just kind of play it around the room again. You're trying to avoid the middle with these claws. We do quite a good job on this pull. Like, there's a couple in the middle, but they're not egregious, right? And then the ghosts come in. I don't know. There's not much I can really tell you about these ghosts other than I had a nightmare with them. Like, there's loads of different things you can try to spot them. It was never the 1 or the 2. It was always the 3 that caught a lot of people out, including myself. I got caught out by these ghosts all the time. We had strats where you rolled out as melee, moved out as melee, and looked at the ghosts and didn't hit anything. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes I'd get... Right. A little bit of a gripe here. Mages need to be banned from casting... Oh, what's the ability? You know when they... Oh, what's it called? When they start glowing. They start glowing white. Believe it or not, it looks exactly like a ghost spawn. So if you move out to the left-hand side and stand behind the mages, and then you start pressing... No, it's not evocation. We'll see it in a sec. But you see what I mean. You see what I mean? And it caught me out so many times early on. Eventually, like, I got really good at doing the ghosts, as you'd expect, 200 pulls in. Right, I need to go back, because I popped cooldowns here. No matter what, the moment Zuin's up, send. No matter what happens in the ordering, I got lucky here, I got Conquer first. This is preferred. If I got Conquer third, I still send. I have to send the moment Zuin's up, because I need it to line up with the amp and the platforms. So, send it out, and we run into the soak. You can see already, I've lost 3-4 seconds of boss uptime, because that's just how it is. I had to send the cooldowns out, doesn't fucking matter. But then I actually get quite lucky here, because it jumps quite early, and I send out. So I'm actually able to get a lot of uptime on the boss here. Sometimes it plays out like this, sometimes it doesn't. It's just which order you get it in, right? It is genuinely just luck of the draw. Sometimes it sucks, sometimes it doesn't. So look at the ghosts. It's that. Whatever the mages are casting here, I forget the name. But like, sometimes you'd be positioned over here, like an early prog, to look at the ghosts and make sure you hit them. And these guys would start flashing white. And we had like we had 4 of them, right? And you've got to spot these 3 ghosts while there are 4 mages casting this stupid ability that makes them look exactly like a ghost. Shifting power. It was the shifting power animation, because we all ran the inky black pots. And so, like, it might not look like it so much here, but like in the heat of the moment, these guys just look like ghosts. But yeah, eventually you managed to get through it. Right, little tidbit here for a tiny little bit of extra damage. You really don't have to do this. But you can essentially run onto this black hole. It looks bad. It looks like it's dealing damage to you. It's not. It's fake news. And then I'd love to put Transcendence down, and then roll out, and then it pops Transcendence whilst you get knocked back instantly on the boss. it's such a small thing. You really don't have to do that, but I really like doing it because it just allowed me to get back on the boss a little bit faster, and also get to hit it whilst it's doing the ramp up to it. But what, you're saving like 4 seconds of uptime or something? It's not necessary, right? Just a little tip you can do. The black circle does not hurt. So you can see we're building up Nether Prism stacks. The one good thing about Nether Prism, I should have mentioned it before, when I sent those 1 minute 30 cooldowns, because they essentially always were 50-50 for me whether I did damage or not, because of the lineups of what the tank abilities were, I never sent Nether Prism there, because let's say I sent it there, and I get the bad combo, and I get like 7 seconds of uptime on my cooldowns, like 7 to 10 seconds. I've lost like a big Nether Prism, and I've done like no damage with it. I felt that it was stronger at this point to stack my Nether Prism up for the platforms and get the platforms done faster so we can come down and hit the boss faster. Because this boss is scripted. Like, no matter how fast you down the platforms, the boss doesn't phase faster. It's on a set timer. So if you do your platform really quickly, you come back down, hit the boss. You're doing more boss damage. Alternatively, a lot of players will send their Nether Prism here at the 130, and then hold it on the platform, and then come back down and send it at 18 stacks or whatever on the amp. This is also good. You can do it either way. As I said before, it really depends what your guild is looking for, what you need the most of. Are you having problems with platforms, problems with the amp? Realistically, we did not have many problems with the amp. We might have done initially on the initial prog, but at this point, we've got the buff, we've all got extra gear. It wasn't necessary to really have like a massive amp damage, but I still did, like, it was just a few less stacks on the Nether Prism is all really. Interesting one. So you stand on the group. I learned the hard way. Don't be on the outskirts here. We marked our tanks usually, and I always just on top of my tank. So if you have the lines, so this is random. The first beam will always be whatever it was then. It won't hit you as long as you're grouped up here. Next beam will either go out or in. If it goes out, you have to run in. And then it will go in, and then you portal out. If it goes in, you stand here and do nothing, hit the boss, and then when it comes out, you portal in. Whatever rotation this one was, the one when you come back before the damage amp is the opposite rotation. So I know for a fact that when we come back down after the platforms, this starts as an innie and ends as an outie. Because it started as an outie and ends as an innie. A little bit slow there, could have Flying Serpent kicked, and I'm saving my lightning. You can see 20 stack lightning, predominantly because I'm doing no damage here anyway, I'm barely hitting the boss. Also, I want my 20 stacker for the platform. As well as that, I actually save my Tiger Palm, because I know that I'm about to hit a Flurry Strikes. A little bit greedy on damage here. So I wait a little bit, I wait a sec, tank get aggro. I Nether Prism early here. I think this played out better. Mostly because I wanted to get the full value from the lightning. So I could have Nether Prismed when I send out Zuin, but by that point a lot of the ads are dead. It might not be the same on your prog, because it might take longer to do the platforms, you know, practicing, learning the platforms, yada yada yada. But because we've done the platform so many times, I decided Nether Prism, Storm Earth and Fire, send out Flurry Strikes, Crackling Jade Lightning. And suddenly I'm on the meters. Suddenly I do damage. And now it's just basically like a weave sort of thing. So this is what I was talking about with Fortifying Brew. My Fortifying Brew came back off of cooldown by the time I get to the platform. That's why I always popped it first. I get the mechanic, and then I pop Fortifying Brew. So get the mechanic, Fortifying Brew, and as a melee, you don't have to go out that far. Think of Kaiveza. As long as you're behind this next ad, you have to have it go through the middle. As long as you're just behind it, that's fine. And then you go straight back in. Don't stay out. You need to hit this as much as possible. So you stack all up, and then roll out, and meanwhile, while this has been going on, I sent out Zuin, don't even remember doing it, and then you send out the second Storm Earth and Fire, because that's just the way I was playing this fight. Right, the leg sweep. This was really important. I don't know how important it's going to be in the future, but these Reapers do an ability called Reap, right? And we had the one healer platform, and if the healer could keep us up, and I have this in quotes because they told me, we lived or died in this platform based on if I could leg sweep these Reapers at the exact perfect time. Because it means by doing it at the exact perfect time, you delay their cast, and they actually die before they do the next Reap, or it desyncs them or something. It fucks them up. TLDR. Is it? So I had a note that said leg sweep here that always reminded me of the leg sweep, but the timer for the leg sweep is not real. I set a countdown for Reap, and the moment it hits 1 second, that's when you leg sweep. It has to be about 1. Like 2 is a little bit too early. They don't get delayed how you want them to. So I actually like stop kind of doing things here. Like it gets to 2, 1, leg sweep. The moment the timer hits 1, and I hit all of them. Did I hit that one? Yeah, hit all of them, and it just screws them. It doesn't have to be a leg sweep, but it's because they go into this mechanic afterwards. That's why. It's because the Reapers are the ones that do the Reap, and it does massive damage to everybody. Like they pick a target and hit them really hard, but you delay them enough that they go into the Twilight Massacre. So it doesn't have to be you that does leg sweep. It could be a Demon Hunter that does shit, whatever that ability is that Demon Hunters do. But someone ideally does this, and it delays their ability, which means you can see how healthy our platform is. No one's taking damage because you can essentially avoid a mechanic by timing it perfectly, but it has to be at 1 second to allow it to be long enough for them to dodge it. And by the time they finish Twilight Massacre, they're essentially all dead, right? So yeah, that's a bit of tech. Doesn't have to be the Windwalker that does it, but you can see I just got Reap there, right? And it hits like a truck. You imagine having to have that at the same time as like the overlap with the Twilight. People just drop. So someone has to do that. So we finish our platform really quickly. And what does that mean? We're back on the boss really quick, right? So we're like, because it's scripted, being back on the platform, being off the platform early is not a bad thing. It means that you get to do damage to the boss faster, which is a good thing. And you always want to try target the Void Wing. It's more important that you do Void Wing damage than Salhadaar damage here. Obviously, you're cleaving off of Salhadaar, but Void Wing is primary target damage. So we knew that the first one was an innie because the last set had the outie first, and then we all portal back in. And now it is damage amp time. So I have a 20-sec lightning here. I'm holding it for the damage amp. So we send pots, and then we send stuff. And you see the issue here is that essentially I don't have cooldowns. And this is what I mean by Blessing of Awesome. It's not the end of the world because it's such a long cast. But I don't get to send cooldowns on this thing until like 24 seconds in, 20 seconds even. So I'm holding the other prism for a little bit longer. And then we finally send everything, and then just do big damage. And it's good. I think Shadowpan's pretty good here. If you have a higher stack Nether Prism, you'll obviously do more damage. But even with like, what did I have, like a 10 stacker or something? That's still a loss of agility for the entirety of this King's Hunger. So you do absolutely pump on this thing. It's worth mentioning that during the amp, I pop Fortifying Brew. Important to do this. You can do this at any point, really, but I try to do it earlier rather than later, about midway through, because it's really hard for healers, this part as well, right? It is a damage amp. They have Lust, but it still hits like a truck. Healers are doing God's work here. So you Fortify and Brew at one point, and then as these things come in, I have a Karma ready for it, because these things hurt. On their own, they don't, but sometimes you get overlaps, right? And it's kind of hard to see. So you can see some overlaps here. You can see overlaps underneath the boss. Like, even if you get hit by just 2, you pretty much die. No one died there, but you can see my Karma pretty much got completely eaten. So I was lucky I only got hit by 1. But if you get hit by 2, it hits like a truck. And if you don't have defensive, you get 1 shot. So now P3. It's an interesting one. So you can see my defensive timers are coming out. But I don't press them. It's only if I get the smash. I do get the smash during this POV, so we'll talk about when I get there. But it means now I have a diffuse magic in the bag for something else. So we tried a lot of things with these rings. We tried counting down, raid leader counts down, tells you to cross over. And we found that the best thing to do was the advice of just cross when you feel comfortable crossing. And it sounds kind of scary, right? Like, I have to make that decision to cross. But when you have a raid leader counting down, Discord's slightly delayed by however much time, maybe you don't feel like you're in the perfect position to cross over when they call it, but you feel forced to because they called it. It actually made our success rate of surviving these rings, like, so much higher, like, dramatically higher, because it was just when you feel comfortable, cross them. You don't feel comfortable, wait. There's no rush as long as you don't die crossing. That was all that mattered. So really useful advice. It might not work for everybody, but we just had when you're comfortable, cross. And that's what we did. We just crossed when we felt comfortable. So now we're going to talk about baits. Here I added a cooldown. So we talked about this at the start, and it's the Starkiller Swing baits. The boss will always spawn them in front of himself. Or like, he does, right? We'll see it. No, it's behind himself. So he always summons 3 of them like in a triangle sort of figure, but it's where his back was facing at the time, I'm pretty sure, because you always face him towards the stars. And he'll summon them in a triangle. 1 always goes on the tank, 2 will go on the closest DPS players. To our understanding, that was how it worked, and I never got the mechanic on purpose by not standing near them, so I'm pretty confident that's how it works. Like, to a degree, you could bait them. Because I had done it once on prog, we had players that had done this 20, 30 times, knew exactly, like, super confident doing it. I made sure that every time this countdown was about to hit, like, 2-1, I was nowhere near where I knew the spawns were. So you see me a lot of the time actually standing in front of the boss as they spawn. Like, so now I'll move in front of him in a sec, or I'll stay here. No, see, I'll move in front of him, because I know this is where they do not spawn. Or like positioning, because I'm basically looking at the boss position, so even though the tanks pulled them slightly this way, I knew they'd spawn there, so I move over here before they come in. We have, I think we have like pre-assigned people like getting as close as possible before they spawn. So there is a way to not guess it if you're not confident, or you don't have a defensive, or there are just people that have done it more that are better at doing it. Because one mess up, it's over. Wipe. It's extremely punishing. So in terms of cooldowns, I have cooldowns coming up now, and I do send them. I wait for the swing to come in. I didn't get the mechanics. So once again, I've got 2 defensives in the bags now, so I was meant to send Fortifying Brew there. See that I don't send defensives willy-nilly. Even though I've got them in the bag, I hold them until I need them. Although they're assigned for these things, if I got a Star Killer swing, for instance, because my position was bad, or I get the next one, I don't just send them out for fun. Like, it's quite important to have defensives up in case you get these mechanics, but also if you take a ton of damage, because damage can be quite dramatic here. So this was the best time to send cooldowns. Realistically, you get a lot of time of like just doing damage without worrying, and then it was a cross when you feel comfortable. So you can see some players cross then. I almost died because I overrolled. Was I comfortable? I was comfortable till I rolled inside that ring, but not punished. But you see what I mean? Like, some players crossed early, some crossed late. It's just when you felt like the best time to do it was for you. I felt like that was the best time for me, and it was. I just overrolled it, but I got back fast enough because I rolled early. And you can see my positioning. I'm just trying to stay away from these things because I know I don't want to be the person that messes those up because I've never practiced it. I've done it once. Let someone else who's done this 10, 15 times, you know what I mean. So there is ways to do it. When damage starts coming in, it's worth defensiving. Do I get the last swing here? I feel like I do get green. I remember getting green. Yeah, right. So this is what I mean, right? Like, even though I had these defensives saved up, in case I got this mechanic, I hold at least 1. So I probably could have sent one of the other 2, but there was no point in the fight at this point where I felt I'm in danger, I'm in trouble. Get to your marker as fast as fucking possible. Tightest squeeze I've ever done in my entire life. If one of us touched these, wipe. So, like, we... And then it's a... One person stands in the middle on the marker, the 2 other players just stand either side. They can be close, they can be a bit closer, but far doesn't matter, because these aren't the ones that you're hitting. As long as they're just, like, positioned far enough away that they're not overlapping, good times. And then defensive. You have to defensive it. It hits like a truck. And then just back on the boss, really. And then once again, it's... So I know there's going to be no more circles coming in. All that's coming in now are breaks and lines. So it's just a move when you want. When do I feel confident moving? Now. When do I feel confident moving again? Now. And now I know that I'm safe. And now I make sure that I position myself to not get hit by the things, because I know that I'm not confident in doing that at this point. And then it's just a send cooldowns on cooldown sort of thing. And the fight just kind of plays out like this. Now it's just a race against time. The boss enrages at like 8 minutes. So no more mechanics come in. As long as these players hit their star killer things, we win. Everybody holds a deep breath, you know? Are we going to hit him? Are we going to hit him? We hit him. This boss is dead. And then this is when I send out my last set of cooldowns, right? Like 10 seconds ago, because that's just when they come off of cooldown. So realistically, this is almost a pop cooldowns on cooldowns. There is like 1 delay, and it's just after the first Galactic Smash. That's the one time you delay your 1 minute 30s. Why does my YouTube keep freezing? Go back. Oh, that was the actual... Oh, yes! I was like, why did I freeze? It's because I actually froze at that point in time during playing the game. That was fun. And then the mechanic comes in and it's a race against time. This is quite a slow kill, actually. I guess we had a few players dead. But you can see even with like players dead, boss is 100% killable. So quite a lot to go through on Nexus King. Big Yap was procs. But it's a good fight. Like, I don't think the fight will ever get short enough where one or the other conduit at that will be better. I think they're both good at doing different things. But I think probably Shadowpan's the better one overall. It's really hard to tell. It's like a Plexus Sentinel or a Fractillus. I think that both are just good, and if you have a good pull on one of them over the other, you'll just perform way better. But they've both got strengths on this fight. Shadowpan is just more paddy, right? Inherently more paddy. But Conduit is just more dangerous. That was a very thorough play guide. Wow. I don't even play Windwalker or Monk, rather. Thank you, Dr. Gosling. So yeah, that's Nexus King. It's a good fight. I'd say what got me the most in Prog, it was nothing in P2 or P3. P1 is where you will wipe the most, and it's not even close. It's a little bit of greeding damage to a degree, because as DPS players, we think, if I'm not hitting the boss, this boss isn't going to die. But if you're dead, you don't deal damage to it, right? Like, there's a lot of times where you do just have to get off the boss, and it feels awful, but it's just how the fight's designed, right? Like, there's a lot of times, like, if you get the wrong Conquer order, or the Conquer order that's just not good for you, you do just have to get off the boss and just survive and be inside of it so that you can prog it. Ghosts also got us a lot. I think a lot of guilds have they just get by the ghosts. The first one and the second one are fine, right? Hitting one ghost is chill. Hitting two ghosts is chill. Some reason when you add a third ghost to that mix, I mean, I can't speak for every player. Some players in the guild just fucking nailed it, right? Good eyes, right? I did not nail it. I had such an issue with the ghosts. Like, I tried everything. I tried staying on the boss and then looking. That didn't work at first. I tried moving out to the left, like where all the ranged were. That didn't really work. I don't know. I just had such a nightmare with the ghosts. I eventually got to a stage where I'd done it enough that I just stayed in melee and I spotted my ghost and everything was fine. There's no real tip or trick to it. I think the thing that catches me out the most was that I didn't count the ghost order, right? Like, eventually you get in the rhythm of, one spawned, two spawned, three spawned. But a lot of the time I would spot one, easy to find, first one spawn. I would miss two, and I'd see three, and I'd be like, three, that's the second one that spawned. And I'd look at that, and the second ghost hits me in that time. But once you get into the rhythm of, this ghost has spawned, find it, that ghost has spawned, because you do just get into the cycle of, it's like 2 seconds or something after each other, but like mentally you just get into the cycle, and then you just don't fail ghosts. But it's a tough one. I think I haven't played it since they changed it, but I've heard they visually made the ghosts easier to see. I don't know how much helpful that will be. Probably nicer, but I haven't actually seen them myself. My only issue with slicing is sometimes when you press it just sends, but other times even if you tap the button it charges up. Yeah, I've had that issue. Sometimes it's lag, sometimes it's not. I've also had the inverse, where sometimes you press it and it just doesn't even register that it's pressed, but you started doing the animation, and then it doesn't even charge up. It just it doesn't go off. And I don't know what causes it. I don't know if it's just how fast you're inputting the buttons that it doesn't register it, but it does register it, but it doesn't register it right. So that one annoyed me a lot, because you have to, like, you really want to send it straight away after Strike of the Windlord. Otherwise, you're losing globals from other abilities, right? If you desync them a little bit, then you're kind of messing up your double heart window overlap. That did annoy me a lot. But it's also just, I think it's so sketchy on these bosses. So I think if I was to recommend the hero talent to play on Nexus King, it would be Shadowpan. I just think it's a bit more solid, safer, does good damage, but predominantly safer, right? What's the one thing you want on progress? Not to die, to be safe, to stay alive, to see the fight. I think it's safer. Conduit is fine. Play Conduit if you're happy with it. But I personally just didn't find it as safe. I found it a little bit riskier. But I think it probably can do more damage to the bosses that you wanted to at the end of the day. Similar to Dimensius, I'm going to say the same thing on Dimensius. I think Conduit's better for when you need it. Like, the only damage that actually truly matters on Dimensius is P3. Conduit will be better. Shadowpan's safer for the entirety of the fight. It just is. Easier to play as well. And sometimes easier to play means you're going to do more damage out of it in the really high stress situations, like high APM, all that shit, All right, we got one more boss to go. He's been yapping on bosses for like 3 hours straight. We're not even on Dimensius yet. Oh no. Where is the Dimensius video? Let's get her done. What if I hit it? Oh, I don't have it up. Alright. Let me find it. Give me a sec, my dudes. While I find this Dimensius thing. I have the Dimensius tab for this, so you can have a look at this for a sec whilst I just find this video. Yes! Yeah. Cringe. Why'd I? that wasn't me. That was me in the video saying yes. I didn't just say yes because I'm rewatching myself go Dimensius. Trust me, please. That'd be funny. I think that's funnier actually. I just start cheering for myself. Okay. Fucking hell, Dimensius. Right. Moment most people are probably looking to. Probably this and Nexus King. I imagine like a lot of people probably won't be as interested in like the Plexus and stuff. I feel like I maybe did it a bit late. But I'm sure as long as there's at least one Windwalker that watches the Plexus bit and is like takes something from it, then that's all that matters. That's all I care about. Dimensius, holy shit. We're going to open WoW again because just like Nexus King, I need to show you the timeline. It's really important to kind of understand the timeline. And trust me, it is so thorough. Like, you use everything on this fight. I use Transcendence off cooldown. I use Defenses off cooldown. I use Spatial Rift. They have made the fight easier in P1, but it's still hard. What they've done mostly is they made these circles that you go up with the gravity. There's less of them. So it's less of a Venn diagram, but it's still something you have to react quickly to. It like, the main part of the mechanic is still there. I'd say it's just as hard. It's just less hard to fuck up if you're... Because if you stack over each other, you both die. So it's less difficult to stack on top of each other, but you still have to do it at the same pace. And as well as that, damage is less than P1, which overall is good, but you can still just get one shot by mechanics if you don't defensive correctly. So it's still difficult. Like, this is not an easy fight by any means still. It's just less punishing. So this was Salhadaar. It doesn't look too bad, does it? No, it doesn't. Not too many times there. This is Nexus. This is Dimensius. So, there's a lot, right? Let's talk through it. On pull, cooldowns, right? Pretty simple. Touch Karma is really important to send on pull. One, because this fight taught me that Windwalker is probably the squishiest class in the game, if not one of. It's not the squishiest, but it is one of the squishiest classes in the game if you don't have a defensive running. It is crazy how... I've never felt squishy in this game in my life until Dimensius. The amount of times I died on pull, and no one else did, I probably had a 3-to-1 ratio to all other players on dying on pull when healers pop cooldowns. When you're not really meant to defensive, right? Like, you're not really meant to defensive on the first one because healers have cooldowns. You should stay alive. I would just die. Like, the amount of times I just died to raw damage was crazy. And I don't think it was... Like, sometimes it was defensive issues. Like, I spent so much time readjusting these defensives, and you'll see, like, some of them don't make sense. Why am I putting an offensive here? I mean, it won't make sense because you're just looking at a timeline right now. But on paper, this diffuse magic makes no sense to pop here. You should pop it over here when the big damage comes in. But I learned that this was my peak time of dying. If I ever died in the fight, it was here. Just there was an overlap that I just took too much damage to compared to other players. So, everything's mapped out, even to the degree of Cracked and Jade Lightnings. I did have a Conduit one. I have a Conduit plan here as well, which is essentially the same thing. but without the Crackling Jade Lightning. So essentially these timeline reminders are the same, right? More or less, with defenses and everything, because that's all that matters. Transcendence mapped out. You can see just how much you need. You have to make use of every defensive in P1. In P2, or the intermission, I suppose we can call it, it's so much more structured, right? Like, insanely more structured. You take a lot less damage, and your defenses carry you a lot more. At no point in the intermission do you ever, like, really feel like you're going to die, just because of how your defenses work. And you have them up for both times at the exact same points. So I felt super safe. Once we got to the intermission, the only time I ever died in the intermission was maybe if I did something stupid, not because I didn't have enough health or defensive in place, right? And then P3, there are various assigned defensives, and I think I'm happy with these. Defensives have to overlap with the inverse gravity, but for the most part as well, you want them kind of overlapping with the last ring. In fact, nowadays, since they nerfed gravity for P3, I'd actually say the last ring is more deadly, because you get hit by the first one, you're already topped, so that's fine. Now you're at half health, below half health. You get hit by the second one, you're likely to be at half health or lower. You get hit by the third one, and you're not properly topped, but you already have to get into position. You're dead before you even get into the soak, where the gravity doesn't hit as hard. So a lot of these defenses I would actually pop just as I'm about to get hit by the third ring, just to save myself. And then sometimes they'd carry through to the gravity, which was cool if they did. If they didn't, I would probably really be topped, and if I'm topped, I don't die in the gravity because they nerf the damage. So I'd probably move some of the defenses back a tiny little bit, a fraction. But Fortifying Brew was one of those things where you could have it overlap like 2 or 3 mechanics at once, right? It could overlap the gravity, and it could overlap some of the rings. So that was useful. So yeah, that's roughly the timeline for this thing. Oh god, too many tabs. I almost Alt F4'd OBS. That wouldn't have gone well. That would have been awful, actually. I'm glad it gives you a warning before you do it. Okay, so we'll talk trinkets first. You don't have to run 2 actives, but it makes sense to run 2 actives. And a lot of people do this. The main reason that you run dual actives is just because of how the fight lines up. I think things will change, but there's a reason that Araz and Unyielding Nether Prism are like taken a lot. Even if you play Conduit, even if you play Shadow Pan, it's because when you start the fight, you want to do hard damage, right? So you have the Ritual Forge to do that. Basically, like, P damage doesn't matter because you should get through it, but it does matter at the same time because you still need to do damage to the boss, right? And there's a lot of ads at the start as well that you need to nuke down as well. TLDR, we don't actually do much of those things. It's everybody else that nukes them down for you. Thank you, teammates. But Ritual Forge is good for the off chance, for your off Nether Prisms, if that makes sense. So you Ritual Forge one set of cooldowns, Nether Prism the next, then you get to the platforms, and that's when you send out a Ritual Forge, because all your damage that you really want on the platforms is really on the mini boss and that first set of ads. Other characters will have cooldowns for the second set. Then you get to the next platform, 1 minute 30 is a backup. So that lines up really nicely with your trinket. So you send out your trinket again, nuke the first set of ads. Other specs will deal with the second set. Then you get to the damage amp, your 1 minute 30 is a backup again. You need a trinket that blows. So, as well as this, Antenna's kind of rough on this fight for when you need the damage. In P1, it's not too bad to keep stacks of Antenna up. But once you get to the platforms, you're moving so much that actually you lose a lot of them. And in P3, fuck, I don't even think, like, you're moving so much that to move out to grab an orb at any point during P3 sounds chaotic and crazy, and like it can just risk like dying or wiping just to get that crit buff. And they do chase you, but there's so much movement in P2 and P3 that you actually just lose a lot of uptime on the buff, or you just don't get the buff entirely. So a lot of people do opt for double trinket on use. Boomy did, the Windwalker that played for Liquid. He ran this setup. He ran Araz and Nether Prism. I also ran this because I copied him. And it's the same for Conduit. Conduit probably plays the double axis better. Shadowpan kind of prefers 1 passive trinket, and sometimes you can run Shadowpan with 2 passive trinkets. So it's definitely more suited for Conduit, but it also works with Shadowpan just because of how the fight works at the moment, because all that really matters are your 1 minute 30 burst windows, and I'm buffing those to the extreme that they need to be buffed to, and this does exactly that. For every 1 minute 30, you have a strong Araz, and then you have a strong Nether Prism, strong Araz, strong Nether Prism, yada yada. In terms of talents, 1 minute 30 again. As I've said quite a few times, 1 minute 30 for this fight makes sense. So as Shadowpan, 1 minute 30, you drop Zuin's battle gear. Same for Conduit, which you play 1 minute 30 anyway. The big choice of debate actually came down to Shadowboxing Treads or Touch of the Tiger. I think in a real, in like a better play situation, Touch of the Tiger would have been better, because I think you do more boss damage. We're talking very minimal damage differences here between these two. But in P3, I think Touch of the Tiger may be probably better. Shadowboxing Tread helps more with cleaving ads during P1 and P2. But generally speaking, Touch of the Tiger, I think, is just probably the best. Because I'll say it a lot, all that matters is P3. So probably just better to do this. It really depends what you need. You'll see with our comp that ads die so quickly. Like, we didn't really have a problem with ads so much because we had a really good comp for it. We had an Ellie Shaman on both sides, and we had Warlocks on both sides, and we had Evokers on both sides. Those guys kind of fuck up the ads. In fact, they messed them up so hard that actually you don't actually do much ad damage. So it came to the point where on early prog, I would highly focus ads, right? They'd be main target almost all the time. Eventually, you get to a point when everyone's comfortable with P1 and stuff. I'm almost always targeting Dimensius and cleaving off of ads. And it's probably how you should play it, because our ad damage is basically nothing anyway. We don't do much damage to them. So if you're doing boss damage, that's good. You want to be doing boss damage. But it's not something you have to do straight away. I probably didn't stop switching off of ads and properly focusing on Dimensius till maybe pull 100. Like, no joke. Because you need to be comfortable with the ads and getting them down, because slightly messing it up, bad. Alright. So, as we can see here, I went into the fight without any Hellstones. Big mistake. That's just me being a goober. This will come back to bite me at the end of the fight. Classic. Alright. Remember that. Remember this moment. In my defense, there were none placed down. But realistically, I should have called for it. Which I did literally every pull. But yeah, one pull, our kill pull, didn't take Hellstones. Just bad. That's on me. I'm stupid. So we land on the platform. Instantly I pot here. I could have delayed the pot a little bit, but because I'm pressing so many buttons at once to try and get damage, I opted to just pot and lose a second of uptime on it, just because I needed to like get into a position, pop like 4 other different abilities at the same time, trinkets, whatnot, that sort of jazz. I was like, fuck it. This is the 1 second of downtime I get. I will lose a second or two of pot just so that I can get everything sorted. So, bit weird to pot straight away on landing. Important. Secondly, Tiger Palm Karma into Dimensius. It was super important to get the Karma off straight away, so that it'll be up when I need it for the second Devour. I think you have until about 6 seconds into the fight before you're teetering on the edge of maybe I've Karma too late and now Devour's going to punish me quite a bit. So I'd always start off this fight weirdly, kind of, for like AoE. Like a lot of these bosses, you'd see me start with Shadowpan, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm. But because there are ads up, I opt for a strange way of doing this. And it all comes down to Flurry Strike procs, right? So ideally you're at 1, but in this situation I'm at 5, right? If I press Tiger Palm, and then Zuin, and then Storm of Fire, and then Tiger Palm, I expend Flurry Strikes. But the big issue here is that you won't be at high enough stacks to fully send out all 10 of them, which means you don't get a Wisdom of the Wall buff. And this was the big issue that I had initially, was trying to make sure that I could get Wisdom of the Wall buff instantly with how I wanted to open up to make sure I hit damage on the ads and the boss. So I always started with the Fist of Fury first, so that my stacks instantly go up to 10, which means my next Tiger Palm then gets Flurry Strikes out, and I get a good cycle, essentially. Like, you start off the cycle, obviously, with the initial Storm, Earth, and Fire one. That's what procced Shadow. But then my 10 stack that you have to proc yourself was only procced because I got myself to 10. So, like, usually you can get away with just going Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, right, Zuin, whatever, and that would usually be fine for that situation. But on this boss, because you want to be doing AoE at the same time, Fist of Fury just kind of made sense to get me up to that point, to be able to get at least 1 Flurry Strikes off on the ads that actually got me a Wisdom of the Wall buff. I always picked up front left, pick that boy up, roll into the middle, good times, everybody's having fun. This fight's super easy, right? I've done like nothing so far. Already at half health, thank you Karma. So, this is where Crackling Jade Lightning comes into place, and also Spatial Rift. You might not be running Spatial Rift. Unlucky, switch to Void Elf. Spatial Rift, pretty useful here, as well as Transcendence. The issue is you can't Transcendence every knockup. You can Transcendence every other knockup. I opted to Spatial Rift 1, Transcendence 2, Take 3, Transcendence 4. You can Lighter Than Air. You can roll in Lighter Than Air, and I do that on the one I take. But when I have Spatial Rift and Transcendences, to just completely avoid it, I take that option. You'll see in a bit, because it allows me to actually get into position for my Soak Circle effectively. I'm always there, because I preset it up. So I Spatial Rift here, and then I keep going a little bit, and then I target the mass. So we're going to talk about mass directions now. Or remember on Loom'ithar when we were talking about Crackling Jade Lightning, and how when I was facing Loom'ithar from the wrong direction, I only hit Loom'ithar and I didn't hit the 2 adds. You have to target something in front of you, but it also, because Crackling Jade Lightning has a 180 view. So right now I'm technically looking at the boss. I'm looking at this mass, and I'm looking at this mass. When you play Shadow Pan, you can actually hit the masses on the other side of the map. However, you can only do this for very specific ad sets. On set 1, you can't do this, or you can, but you don't hit the back one. So essentially set 1, I had to choose, do I want to hit this mass and the mass on the other side and the boss, or this mass, the boss, and this mass? And I opted for hit my side's mass. So you can see I look at it, target it, Crackling Jade Lightning, and you can see the lightning on that split second. I'll try to go back for a sec so you can see like it actually hits. Come on. Okay, I missed it. Okay, you can see the lightning. Right, okay, you know what I mean. The lightning hits the ad on the right, it hits this ad here, and then it bounces onto the boss as well. So this is how you play it. The idea was to always hit one of the masses, because the issue by hitting Dimensius with the lightning was it didn't always bounce to the close mass. Like, it sometimes bounced from Dimensius to the one behind it, or it bounced from Dimensius to this one and not that one. If you hit the mass first, it would bounce from mass to boss to mass, if that makes sense. Or mass to boss to mass, that sort of thing. So always Crackling Jade Lightning the mass, get into position, and I'd always Fortifying Brew at the last second here, because it allowed Fortifying Brew to last for the big explosion. Touch of Death, always on this ad, no matter what its health is. Get the Touch of Death, you can do more boss damage. Fortifying Brew allowed me to survive the explosion. Gravity Front, get there fast as possible. Always let the back guy go first, obviously don't overlap with him. You can see that we're close, not close enough to overlap. Back down, I'm going to move left now to place my Transcendence, because that's my next position for dropping my puddle. So, I wait for a good time to do it. Don't have to be in a rush. Just wait for when I'm not casting an important ability. Transcendence down, Rising Sun Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch. I always plan to Rising Sun Kick first here, so that, because I'm running ordered elements, I then Storm, Earth and Fire, Rising Sun Kick again. The moment I got hit by the knock, I had to make a judgment call on if I needed a health pot or health stone. Obviously can't health stone here because I didn't take one, so the call was, I was enough health to not have to worry about it, essentially. So I'm actually at low health. If I had a health stone, I would have instantly pressed it. In fact, I guarantee I pressed this button without realizing I don't have a health stone, just out of instinct. Because this is one of the damaged windows where I take tons of damage. Instantly Transcendence, Rising Sun Kick, Storm, Earth and Fire, Rising Sun Kick, and now I'm trying to build 20 stacks. This might not be how it works for you, based on how your healers have cooldowns and stuff, but even though I'm at full health, I found that if I didn't diffuse magic this, sometimes I just get one shot. I just would. There is a bug where sometimes if you're over the lip, it can double tick you, but I found that this, even if I wasn't over the lip, this seemed to be where I always got hit the hardest. Even bigger than the next explosion coming up, I just always died at this position. So I was like, I have to diffuse magic here. And it also allowed me to diffuse magic later in the fight at another important point. So this was the perfect point for me to think, diffuse magic. I don't take damage. It means I can stand here, keep hitting, and go for it. So what do we do here? We get to 18 stacks, and I realize I'm at 20% agility buff. This mass is already 43% health. If I hit 2 more globals, this mass is probably already dead, and I can't see the health of the one behind it, really. I mean, I can, but I'm not looking at these tiny things, let's be real. So, I lightning, I hit the mass, it bounces to the boss, it hits the one behind it. I've hit 3 targets with a lightning here. 18 stacks, but I've guaranteed it, I've hit it for the entirety without it dying, right? Pretty good. Useful, and I have no defense for this one, but I learned that I don't need a defensive for this. The healers just had me covered on this one every time, so I was confident in doing it. And now let's go to the middle, and this is when I needed Touch of Karma and Health Pot. So this is why we Touch of Karma so early at the start of the fight, so I always have it up for this. And I tried to avoid using a Health Pot here if I could. I would delay damage a little bit to allow myself to take a bit of a hit, and then I'd Karma. Because I found that if I Karma'd before I ported over, healers would look at my health. I just assume my health bar would be full, right? And then I'd start ticking down whilst they're healing other people that are taking like big hits, right? They just make sense naturally. If I let myself drop to like almost half health, then Karma'd, the Karma would last the rest of the, like, I suppose the rest of the mechanic, and they'd heal me back up to full, so I didn't have to expend my health pot during this time. And this was big, because I need health pot sometimes for the next mechanic. Like, health pot was so vital for me on this knockback. Sometimes I would get almost one shot. So I hold cooldowns here. Lose my voice a little bit. I hold cooldowns here so that I have it for the ad set. I'm building up lightning stacks. I'm going to send Nether Prism on this set here, so I hit the boss in this. And I'm hovering over my health pot. This is the one time I use Lighter Than Air. So it knocks me down to half. I'm like, this is fine. If I was knocked down further, I'd health pot. Trust me, sometimes you get knocked almost dead and you have to health pot. Half health, I just learned, fine. Good enough to not die. Once again, build my stack. I'm building my stacks up here. And I actually don't switch to the mass here. So this is... Oh no, I do. I thought I didn't. I switched to the mass, crack lightning, and then I instantly switch back to Dimensius in like a split second. Because I hit the mass, it hits the boss, hits the one behind it. Move into position, Fortifying Brew for this, so then it lasts for the explosion as well. Similarly to how we did Fortifying Brew for the first one. So, you can see, this is, you can see this is like 2 minutes into the fight. So much shit's gone on, right? It's fucking, it is a crazy fight. You get in the rhythm of it. And then I finally place my last Transcendence down for this final positioning here. Because this is where I know I'm going to do my soak. And once it hits 8%, the call is to stop doing damage, which I do because I'm a good boy. I'm not casting anymore. I cast a blackout kick. However, I do cast in a second, and I'll tell you why. I cast here. I cast Vivify, which somehow procs Flurry Strikes, obviously, because that's how it works now. And I do cast a Rising Sun Kick. The only reason I cast Rising Sun Kick is because I know here I have no defensive. I'm not happy with my health. So I Vivify, Rising Sun Kick, Vivify, just to put myself in a bit better health, so that when these pools come in, I don't get one shot. The healers have time to top me. Probably a good call. And then I just start hitting this mass at the back, because the call's been made to not hit the boss anymore for a little while. At this point, it's like, what else am I meant to do? So yeah, I literally just hit this ad for a little bit. And going back a split second, what's so important about me diffusing magic as well at that point earlier in the fight when I diffused magic is that you need a defensive for this explosion. This one hurts as well. Well, diffuse magic always comes up perfectly for this as well. So, like, there's a lot of defenses being used at certain times so that you can use them later in the fight and they overlap each other. Like, so there is method to the madness. Every time I've used a Transcendence, Spirit Spatial Rift, defensive, it is so that I can have it set up for the next one or perfectly used at a certain time. Like, everything's very structured. I'm not pressing any defensive for fun or like just on a whim. And now we fly. Let me have a sip of water while we fly, because there's really not much to say here. I don't do anything, I just fly. Oh man. You can go faster here, but as you can see that note said, fly the route you know, you goblin. I found that trying to deviate from the path I knew sometimes ended in me being slower. All that matters is that you land and start hitting after your tank. My tank arrives. So, like, if I'm there before my tank, I can't do anything anyway. Otherwise, you know, like, I get one shot by the boss. I can't send Zoo in before the tank gets aggro, otherwise Zoo gets one shot. Because he'll take aggro, right? But it's so crucial that you send your cooldowns as soon as possible. This cannot be understated. Cooldowns have to be sent so quickly on the platforms. It'll make more sense on platform 2, how fast it has to be sent and how crucial it is. But the moment I know and I trust that my tank's got aggro, send both. Just send both, because you have to have these up for the next platform. Like, the timings are so tight here. So we're kind of chilling, being chilling for a little bit. I'm keeping my 20 stack lightning, because I only send lightning on the first set of ads for both platforms, because I want full value from the 20 stackers with my cooldowns. There was a time when I sent out 20 on the first, and then like 10, 10, 10. But I roughly worked out that sending 2 20s during cooldowns probably makes more sense and does more damage than 20, 10 with no cooldowns, 10 with cooldowns, 10 with no cooldowns. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it maths out about the same. But either way, send out here. It was my leg sweep first. I wait for the last guy to get sucked in. Crackling Jade Lightning, leg sweep. I don't even look... trust me when I say this, I don't even look at the Nullbind's cast time at this point anymore. I just know when they're going to cast. I've done this fight so many times, it's kind of disgusting. So defensives are important here, and Transcendence is important here. The first time you pop a defensive is Fortifying Brew for 2 reasons. 1, take less gravity damage. Kind of hurts, got nerfed a bit, still hurts. 2, if you pop Fortifying Brew during the first gravity, it lasts for the entire pushback, more or less. Like pretty much the entirety of the pushback, kind of. And I pop a Transcendence when I run. Important too, very important. You pop a Transcendence whilst you run. So in my gravity position, I was always in this position over here. And so I don't have it on this kill POV, but the reason it's so important to pop a Transcendence here, or during your run, is these lines. You'll see all of these players, where are they aimed? They're aimed kind of off to the edge in a really weird way. And the moment they pop, the winds come in. So whenever I got this line mechanic, I'd get hit. Oh my god, my voice. I get knocked back slightly, right? Get hit, get knocked back slightly into Transcendence so that I don't get knocked off the edge or blown into these. It was so crucial you place this Transcendence during it. Cannot be understated. On the off chance you get this ability, you probably could just do some like lighter than air stuff, but it's just so risky to like get knocked, try a lighter than air, flying serpent kick, when you can literally just bounce back here and survive. The knockback is really weak now in comparison. So weak now that flying serpent kick's stronger. That's kind of cool, right? And you can see Fortifying Brew still running. So that's why it's important to pop Fortifying Brew on that gravity. And you hold Storm, Earth, and Fire here for the moment the ads spawn, so that you get their procced Flurry Strikes on the ads, and then you can also proc your normal Tiger Palm ones on them as well. Get some Touch of Death, spinning Crane Kicks, all that sort of jazz in there at the same time. Big dammy, big dammy. And now we port over. So you use a Warlock portal here, and this is when Diffuse Magic comes into play, right? So we need a defensive for this gravity. Once again, it doesn't hit as hard as it used to, but you have a defensive for it. Pop it. I stand in my same spot, pop Diffuse Magic. I take like 0 damage. Baller, gamer, feels good, man. I will talk during this route, because this route's really important. And it all comes down to cooldowns. It all comes down... It's not the cooldown of how long I have left on Zoon. It's I have to pop this ability as fast as possible. Like, because the time between Platform 2 and the AMP is about 1 minute 30 seconds, right? If I pop it a little bit too late, I don't get it for the AMP. The AMP is 15 seconds long. It's such a tiny AMP, you need it as close, if not before the start, if it's possible, to get it off. So you have to take a specific route. So you walk off the edge of the platform, press the fast one that makes you go fast, you miss the first ring, skip it, get second ring. And then you keep going, you miss the third ring. Fuck that shit, we ain't getting that, it's too slow. You'll be there too late, you won't get your cooldowns for the amps. You get the third one, it's really close, like you only have 1 second to get it each time. And now, like the fucking God of Thunder, you're going to jump off your mount and press Zuin the moment you can press Zuin. Mid-air, press that shit. Zuin's out. Storm, Earth, and Fire, not even up yet, doesn't matter. Zuin's more important to get out here. Zuin's the most important thing to get out here, because you will have a Storm, Earth, and Fire up for the next one, right? So that's all you're focusing on. Zuin out as fast as possible. And now, you kind of... I'll go back, because it's worth explaining. So once again, I'm leg sweeping again. So we're doing a bait right here. You see the entire raid's kind of lined up. I'm holding 20 lightning. I've set my cooldowns, whatever. The moment it starts casting Star Shard Nova, that's when you get out. You don't move until that. I wait on the edge. I actually crack Jade Lightning now, because it's a little bit of downtime. And then, because it's my leg sweep, I run in, and then leg sweep. Someone else also CCs during that point as well, but, you know, in case they miss it or whatever, we're both assigned there. I do have Transcendence assigned here. It's not necessary. It used to be more useful on this one when the knockback was stronger, but now the knockback's so weak, I just do it out of instinct. It's just Platform 1 where the Transcendence is really crucial for those lines, but you don't get them on Pargath. Then once again, Fortifying Brew, right? You pop Fortifying Brew during this melee so that it lasts the winds as well. I also started Karmaing the winds on laser pulls, because I found the damage at the end when I set Karma up for wasn't very useful, or like didn't get much value. So I Karma during the winds as well to get more damage on Pargath. And then once again, it's a bait. It's a bait and switch. Ability comes out, we move to the right. I don't send lightning, I just focus on AoE damage, getting Flurry Strikes out, doing Pargoth damage. And then you guessed it, Warlock Portal into Diffuse Magic. The platforms play out the exact same, pretty much in terms of defenses and cooldowns. And now your job here is to stay on the platform, right? Just stay on the platform, so you can heal yourself, essentially, and healers can heal you. Easy to do with Flying Serpent Kick. They changed it, so now it's super simple. You can see how low my health gets. If I fell off this platform, I can't heal myself mid-air. I would have died. So being able to stay on and then vivify myself as fucking fast as possible allowed me to stay alive, which is super important. Like, pretty important. Damage jump coming up. So, 20 stack lightning saved in the bag. I actually send Ritual Forge here. You might think Nether Prism, and I tossed it up, right? I thought to myself, an 18 stack Nether Prism is going to be stronger on this amp, but it means I'd have to send one set of cooldowns during the platforms without a trinket, essentially. I'd have to go trinketless on one set of the platforms. And I weighed up that sending the Araz, because it's a shorter damage amp, bear in mind, 15 seconds. So you're actually getting more value from the Araz than you would on a longer damage amp, because the Araz decays, but you lose less of the decay when you need it. Nether Prism obviously stronger, 18 stack Nether Prism stronger. However, by letting the Nether Prism, by popping it sooner, letting it stack up, my next set of cooldowns during the boss fight at the end here actually has a higher Nether Prism as well. Whereas you potentially would get a big Nether Prism if you got your third set of cooldowns off on this boss. But basically, it's a toss-up, right? Which one's better? Probably the Nether Prism, but I just prefer doing the Araz Ritual Forge, so I got trinkets on every set. It was the whole point of running 1 minute 30s, right? And Araz is still really strong on this burn. So you can see what I mean here, right? Zuin 3 seconds off. It's even though I pop Zuin the moment I Thor lightning down onto this second platform, it's still not off cooldown as it starts. That's how tight it is still, right? And that was like pretty damn fast that I popped Zuin. So you can see like how important it is. If I delay it even more, I basically lose the entirety of the amp. So pop everything, just, you know how it be. Abuse the damage amp, hit the boss, get the flurry strikes out, go hard, go home. And now it's just kind of be a gamer sort of thing, to a degree. What caught me out a lot, and kind of caught me out on this kill as well that you'll see, is the fall off of the rings. You have 3 seconds in between hitting each ring, I think. We'll see in a sec, actually. Also, no defensives on these first rings. You take them like a man. Yeah, so it's 3 seconds, and you have this little icon in the middle of your screen counting down. You cannot touch another ring while this is active. It's kind of self-explanatory. You get one shot. But sometimes I would hit it at like 0.1. I'd like think it's safe. 0.1, just one shot. It's over. So you got to be really careful there. This is quite chill at the start here, right? And then you get the first soaks, the first Devour soaks. And this is when I like to use my first Fortifying Brew, because arguably this is one of the harder overlaps, because you have a Devour into Gravity Soaks, into Tank Pull, into all sorts of shit, right? So this is like a really tough one, where a lot of damage is coming out. So I want my defensive that's going to last the longest amount of time, that can last this entirety of thing. Well, that's Fortifying Brew. It can last the Devour into the Gravity. You want to get in its last second, because this hurts as well, being inside of this. So like 1 second, ideally, is good. And then we're all stood over here, right? I get the mechanic on me. You got to run towards the tank so that you're not stacked on top of each other. Yay. Happy days. My Fortified Brew still's running, so I got it running for both of those. And now I'm just waiting. I'm not sending Storm Earth and Fire. I'm waiting for Zuin to come up, and I've got a 15 stack Nether Prism, right? So this is what I mean by holding it. You still get a full Nether Prism. It's just not during the damage amp, but I think it's still valuable. So you got to be careful with these rings. So you can see I took a lot of damage here, and this is what I meant by casting defensives before the ring hit me. I move out, and so I've set it up so that Diffuse Magic is for the Gravity, right? But I still don't trust these rings. I've died too many times to these rings. I hate them. I pop it before the ring even hits me. That way it hits me for nothing. I go into the Gravity, and then Diffuse Magic is still active for the Gravity. This is what we call the mover. So during this one, you're allowed to move, because of how everything's positioned. The next one's called the no mover. Surprisingly, you don't move. If you move, you probably die. So this was the mover, and then we send cooldowns out. It's a really nice window to send cooldowns. 18 stack Nether Prism, full Crackling Jade Lightning 20. Kind of a lot of damage, if you ask me. And we still have Karma in the bag. We're going to use Karma for the next defensives here. And rings. This is when the room's starting to get a little bit smaller, a little bit more sketchy. Big hit there. Big hit there, and then move out a little bit. Make sure you're topped. When I'm comfortable with being topped, I pop my Karma. You can see that I popped my Karma before then, so that the ring took the entirety of the Karma damage, or Karma prevention damage, I suppose. And then I went into the Gravity with no defensive. And in my opinion, I think this was okay because they nerfed the gravity damage. I think the ring damage is actually harder, like hits harder than the gravity damage now. So if I can be in the gravity at pretty much full health, I'll survive it as long as I'm not stacked on like 4 other players, right? Which I wasn't. This is what you call the no mover. However, sometimes I think it is the mover. I'll be honest. I moved here because I was not happy, and I think I made the right call. Oh, well, okay. It's coming in now. I moved here because I'm in my position. We have set positions. I wasn't happy that this melee soak was put in a position, like, no fault of anybody, right? But we've been told to not move here. If I didn't move, I died. 100% died. I didn't realize until watching it back, but because of how the tank's positioned and stuff, and it's a fast-paced fight, like, I would have died. I would have clipped the boss there, 100%. So I do slightly move to avoid death. No one dies. Not too bad. Did I break the rules of the no mover? Yes. Do I think it was worth it? Yeah, I didn't die. You know, come on. So this is interesting. I sent out a Storm, Earth, and Fire here. Also, I don't defensive this Devour here. You just got a nasty live it, unless you're literally on death's door. I do health pot though, because it's rough, but I need Fortifying Brew for the next things coming up. It's more important to have Fortifying Brew for that than for this. This is just try save a health pot for this or something. It hurts, but what's coming hurts more, I promise. So I sent Storm, Earth, and Fire out here, and I think if I didn't die in the next, like, I die in the next 30 seconds or something, it makes sense to send the Storm, Earth, and Fire out here with the 20 lightning, because then, due to how Storm, Earth, and Fire works with increased cooldown, it would have been up for Zuin. Because I die, I don't get that extra cost reduction, I suppose, is the big issue. So it doesn't line up when I get rezzed. So we're in this position. I'm holding Fortifying Brew for this next thing that we're doing. So it hurts. You can see how sketchy the room is now. It's tiny. So Fortifying Brew for this, because the issue is it gets sketchy here. So even though you're meant to, like, you are in your positions and stuff, and I'm trying to be in this top right corner, I've got to be so careful I don't touch this black hole, right? And plus, people are moving because they have to, because everyone's avoiding black holes. Overlaps are bound to happen here, so I think it's more important to pop the Fortifying Brew here. And I take a lot of damage even with Fortifying Brew, and then you reduce the pull. Don't know how I didn't get sucked in there. Who knows? And rings. So this is where I die. Usually what usually catch me out on this set of rings here, and it's worth mentioning mistakes, right? Usually what catch me out a lot here is I would take the second ring very slowly. And this means I didn't have enough time. But I actually took the second ring really quickly, which was clever. So actually this dropped off. But the issue is that I just didn't get enough healing. No fault to the healers, right? I could have moved back further. So if I moved back further, I probably would have survived it. Or if I had this health stone that we talked about earlier, I would have survived it. That would have been cool. But unfortunately, I just didn't have enough health to survive it. If I maybe moved back to a little bit, I would have got the healing. Because you can see the incoming healings there, right? I would have survived it. So I get knocked down. The instant res comes out. Back into the fight. We're not dead yet, baby. We did lose our Nether Prism stacks, but we were never going to get another Nether Prism send out. So it kind of worked out in my favor. But the big issue here is that my cooldowns now don't line up. Because of that death, I lose like a bit of uptime on getting this out. So I have to send out a Zuin here on its own. We sent the Diffuse Magic on that one. Somehow didn't get pulled in again. So we sent out Zuin. To be honest, it doesn't really matter because I cock up these rings entirely. I try to Spatial Rift it. I'll be honest. Is this the one I tried to... No, I tried to Spatial Rift the other one. So what you might be noticing here a lot of the time is you might be thinking to yourself, why didn't you just use Transcendence? Great question. Another big mistake I made in P3 a lot is I didn't utilize Transcendence. I go on and on in P1 about how I've utilized Transcendence a lot of the time. I don't know. I genuinely think I played P3 quite badly. Because a lot of these, like this death, easily avoidable if I take the first ring, pop a Transcendence down here, move to the back, Transcendence over it. I'm at full health for the third ring. I survived, right? So I can easily say I did not utilize Transcendence well enough in P3. And you can do this for a lot of the sets of rings. If you take the first hit, Transcendence the second one, take the third one, you live pretty much every ring set because your healers will have you topped in between that time. So that's my one thing that I wish I did better in this phase. If I use Transcendence better, I think I played Transcendence awfully in P3. I tried to Spatial Rift when I didn't need to. Usually my Spatial Rift paid off. This time I Spatial Rift and it went through Dimensius because I shot it the wrong way. Just poor play. It is what it is. So yeah, if there's one thing I'd say that you can learn from not watching this video, it's how little I Transcendent. You should Transcendent so much more. I'm pretty sure on the 45-second cooldown of Transcendent, you should be able to avoid at least every other ring set in that way, which means this ring set's a really scary one. You could do the 1-2 before this, and then maybe like the one after it if you're lucky. But essentially, this is the big one you need to survive. The boss is like at no health. If you can survive this one, you're probably killing the boss with everyone alive. You can see like how scuffed this was at this point. I mean, I'm not the only person that like kind of messed up a little bit at the end there. It is a very tough fight.
Yes.
And then we got it down.
Yes.
And then I shout to myself, yes, cringe, shut up. And that is Dimensius. That was a long one, eh? So yeah, I think, but as I said with Nexus King, I played Shadowpan because I think it's safer. And I think it still does good damage. Easier to play, easier to execute, but probably if you're playing them, let's say you play them both at the exact same level, Conduit will do more in P3, which is the only damage you actually really care about. Obviously, though, Prog's different. In Prog overall, it's quite important to survive, right? And I think surviving is more important. So I played both for a while. I played Conduit for a while. I played Shadowpan for a while. And I stuck with Shadowpan because I found that I died less, just naturally. My Vivifies were stronger because of the hero talent tree. It just felt better overall. And I was playing a lot less risky, having to try like getting these like Slicing Winds, Strike the Windlord cooldowns in during like sketchy points to make sure I'm not like losing tons of cooldowns and stuff. So overall, I think I would recommend Shadowpan for this fight, for Prog. But potentially, eventually, I think Conduit's better. But if you're happy playing Conduit in this fight, and you're good at playing Conduit in this fight, it's better for what you need to get done on this fight, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's all the boss. That's all the bosses. Holy shit. That was a long yap, eh? Rocked a 3.5-hour yap. So the idea is going to be that obviously this video will be a VOD on Twitch and YouTube, so you can actually rewatch this at any point. But what I'll do is I'll do what I usually do with my boss kill videos, is I'll like do my little intro and I'll put my talents that I ran here, my gear and stuff. And then I'll just, put my going through it in the video and stuff. So if you wanted like individual ones, they'll be there as well. But that won't be like right now. I'll need to do I'll try and do like a video every day, maybe every other day. Please don't quote me on that. But that's the plan. But hopefully as long as like any of that helps you at all on any fight, that'd be useful. I'll also put, what I didn't do last tier is I didn't put my timeline reminders into the actual boss description, I don't think, so I'll do that as well. The Dimensius one is like 2,000 words long. Have fun with that. Yeah. Hopefully that helps you. Even if it's just like a little trick or something, or a tip that I went through, or even the mistakes, right? If learning from my mistakes helps, amazing, great. So that's why I did it like this. I didn't just include, because I said at the start, I didn't want to include just my best versions of each kill. I used my one re-clear that I did the other week, regardless of how I played on that fight, because it's more real, and it's easier to talk about mistakes when you show the mistake, right? Because if I can tell you that I made the mistake, but if you don't visually see what the error was, then you can only imagine it, if that kind of makes sense. So I didn't want to cherry pick the kills or anything like that. I wanted to just pick ones from just playing it all in one day. This is what I did good, this is what I did bad. Please learn from these errors so that you don't make the same mistakes. Is it possible to put chapters in the VODs? Yeah, probably. I think you can, because I think it converts itself to a actual YouTube video. Yeah, that's a good shout, actually. I will put chapters in the VOD, in case you want to use this main video VOD as a thing. Maybe tomorrow I'll do it when I'm doing the individual boss guide things. But yeah, I will chapter them. Good idea. Thanks, man. We're about to start M with my guild, so this will come in handy. Yeah, good luck with Mythic, my dude. There are some good bosses. This is a pretty good tier. I mean, honestly, I really enjoyed Undermine. Totally not because Monk was really, really strong in Undermine. But a lot of these bosses are really, really fun. Araz, I think it's just my favorite. Just as the fight came, like in its whatever iteration. I think it's just a fun fight. I usually hate fights with lots of ads, but I think it's done in a good way that it's not overwhelming. And there's part of it as well with the amps as well. I think it's just a good, fun overall fight. What else do I like? I think I did enjoy Dimensius. Nexus King I didn't enjoy, but I think I just played poorly in P1, and I didn't have fun progging it at the start because I kept playing awfully on P1. But Dimensius it's a fun boss. Like it gets to a point eventually where it is a grueling fight, and you get to this point like where you're 9 minutes into the fight before you get to prog again. Right? That's crazy. Like because I didn't really raid bosses like Jailer or Sylvanas. I didn't really play at that time. So I played with like the Sarkrefs, the Gallywixes, the Ansorex, which aren't like crazy long fights. They're like more 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So like it's such an endurance test, these fights. So they're really, really fun. I just like that you can go. I mean, Shadowpan is obviously better the majority of the raid, but Conduit still got its place. And as I said for like a lot of these bosses, I think there's a good portion of these bosses, besides like few ones that are just completely Shadowpan based, where you'll be able to get more value from one of the hero talents literally based on what sort of kill times are happening at that point. I think Plexus Sentinel is going to be super like a super clear one with that. Like, does it suit the conduit cooldowns? Does it suit the Shadow Pan? I think Fractillus is going to be another big one that kind of works in that way. Maybe Nexus King. It really depends how quickly you get him down, because it's still going to be a long fight. And Loom'ithar as well, I think, is another one that's going to work like that. But yeah. Cool. I was going to do some M plus and stuff, but my throat is killing me. I don't think I've ever procced a 4-hour yap before. 3-hour yap, 4-hour yap. I don't know. So I'm going to hop off now. The VODs will be uploaded straight away. The videos will always be there. I'd probably say watch the YouTube one because it's probably harder to... Because I'll be able to actually chat to the YouTube one, right? I mean, you can watch the Twitch one. I don't care which one you watch, but... watch which one you want. But I'll actually be able to chat to the YouTube one. And then... yeah, I'll make just the individual ones with talent builds and stuff as well. But to be honest, in this main video, I went through talents and stuff as well. You know how it be. Yeah, have a awesome rest of your... What day is it? Sunday? Yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I might stream on Tuesday or something. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'm in Halls of Atonement jail at the moment because I'm really trying to get idle, because I think there's a world that I'm going to create the mesa for Shadowpan for Mythic Plus. My ego knows no bounds, but I think that I'm going to create this Shadowpan mesa where you play Nether Prism and you play Idol, and it's going to be a double active Shadowpan Mythic Plus build that just dominates the meta specs. Or maybe I'm just coping, but until I get the trinket, who knows? But that's my goal anyway. So I'm just going to be in Halls of Atonement jail quietly. But hopefully I get that before my next stream, because I want to play it on stream. It's sounds fun. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned something. If not, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, hopefully catch you next time. All right, bye guys.